Assuming my microphone is working, the chair will bring to order the Monday, September 17th, 2018 Single Family Design Board. We'll go to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the board on any item not on today's agenda? Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for the approval of the Tuesday, September 4th, 2018 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for approval?
Move. I make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let's go through the draft. Item number 1, 1686 Los Caneros Road. Any comments, changes? Okay. Item number 2, 1035 Coyote Road. Item number 3, 365 El Cielito. Item number 4, 2018 Foothill Road. Item number 5, 113 Santa Rosa Place. Okay. No motion on the floor. I have one comment. Katie, I know that staff really works hard at screening all of these projects, but we had a project come under this meeting where it was very obvious the drawings were not complete. Information was not on there. Is there a way to just tell an applicant, look, we're not going to, and I suspected the reason they wanted to come to see us is whether we were going to buy into their approach to dealing with the various things on their project. But it really wastes our time if we've got a set of documents here that don't have sections, they don't have the notes correct, they don't have the dimensions, they don't have half the stuff that we're supposed to look at that's on that checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to kind of stop that process?
Well, we do have a review, which is a comments-only conceptual review, which is what that applicant had requested. We had given him a lengthy plan check of all the things that he needed to include. What he was really hoping to get out of the meeting was the materials, the general approach, those type of big-ticket items supportive. So, yeah, we do typically request more from the applicant, but in this particular case, he had requested to just come and get some comments from the board.
But you see my point. It just really wastes our time because we can't see everything and
Yeah.
just basic stuff. So in
However,
my view,
we do offer a very basic, limited plans provided, general concept review. So
that
I'll
is
take that
in
into
the
consideration,
process.
but,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Okay, any other comments on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Let's go to the minutes for consent calendar, September 10th. Katie?
The minutes for the SFDB consent agenda for September 10th are as follows. Item A, 1913 Mission Ridge Road received approval of review after final is submitted. Item B, 1135 Harbor Hills Drive was continued indefinitely to the full board with a comment to provide further study of how the proposed standing seam metal roof fits in with the neighborhood. Item C, 1611 Shoreline Drive received final approval as submitted. Item D, 1031 Mission Ridge Road was continued 1 week with a positive comment regarding the proposed pool and materials. Item E, 1132 Manitou Road received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. And item F, 1931 Garden Street received project design approval with the NPO findings and was continued indefinitely to consent with a comment to provide a color and materials board.
Do I have a motion for approval?
I make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Let's go to the consent calendar for this morning, September 17th.
I don't think you have a printout, but I'll just go ahead and read them to you.
Thank you.
Item A, 1913 Mission Ridge Road received approval of review after final is submitted. Item B, oh, no, that's the wrong agenda, sorry. Okay, the minutes for the SFDB consent agenda for September 17th are as follows. Item A, 33 Los Alturas Circle received approval of review after final is submitted. Item B, 1901 Gibraltar Road received project design approval with the NPO findings and was continued indefinitely to consent to return with a permeable material sample. Item C, 612 East De La Guerra Street received project design approval and final approval is submitted with the NPO findings. Item D, 1540 Shoreline Drive was postponed due to the applicant's absence. Item E, 1031 Mission Ridge Road was postponed 1 week at the applicant's request. Item F, 2434 Calle Montilla was postponed indefinitely at the applicant's request. And item G, 49 Cedar Lane was continued 2 weeks to the full board.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion for approval?
I approve. I make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second? Thank you. Any questions, comments? No? Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Let's go to, well, first of all, before we go to announcements, let's go to roll call, please.
Here we go. Chair Sweeney,
Here?
Vice Chair Miller,
Here.
Board Member Farrell,
Here.
Board Member James,
Here.
Board Member Richards,
Here.
Board Member Ziegler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Motisha just whispered on me, or he had some kind of last-minute emergency. He will be back as soon as he addresses it. Okay. And then, is there anyone that needs to step down from any item on today's agenda?
I will have to recuse myself from item number 3.
3, which is Overlook Lane. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Katie, any other announcements?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I need to announce we have 2 postponements from today's agenda. Item 1, 1135 Harbor Hills Drive will be postponed to the next full board meeting. And our last item, item 7, will be postponed until the next meeting. Both of the applicants' request.
Okay.
And then I just also wanted to make an announcement. I know I sent out an email regarding the annual recruitment for the city advisory group members is in progress. The resignation deadline is for Thursday, October 4th, and the application deadline is Tuesday, October 16th at 5 p.m. There'll be interviews to follow. I know you had sent an email about if anyone's term was expiring, if they
Yep.
needed to reapply, but no one's term will be expiring this December of 2018, so nobody needs to reapply. And if
Because-
anyone has any questions, they can email me.
And Katie, the reason I asked that is apparently we're different than the other 2 review boards in that for some reason, our timelines go from June to June or June to July rather than the calendar year. So that means if someone's term ends in June of 2019, when do they apply if they want to continue? When does that happen?
It would be the December prior, I believe. It's June and December is when the terms end. So there's a recruitment, actually. I'm not sure, I'd have to fill you in, but neither of you would be reapplying, so.
Right, because our two terms
Yeah.
are up. So, and then nobody else is up? Oh, okay,
No.
so then we're okay, all right. Okay. So just to be clear, Lisa and I will be stepping down because we'll have served 2 terms, and as I understand it, unless Katie tells me I'm wrong, that's it, that's all we can serve.
Oh.
So we get termed out or whatever it's called. Okay.
You could apply for other boards, I think, but
Yeah.
on this
but you
particular
can't
board.
re-serve on this board.
It's a new rule?
No.
What,
It's been around for a while, as I
no
understand it.
dynasties here. huh?
Yeah.
Is that the same with the rest of the boards too?
No dynasties, yeah. Okay, let's see. Anything else, Katie?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Lisa?
Shall I go after Chris?
No, we can go ahead and address it now. I guess I was going to take a straw vote from the board. We've recently been seeing a lot of standing seam metal roof applications on the consent board, and it's been the general consensus that the board reviewers at consent haven't been comfortable making the call on their own, so most of the projects have been forwarded to the full board. I just kind of wanted to get a vote of how many board members think it would be appropriate until further notice to have those projects reviewed directly at full board rather than going to consent first. I don't know if you think that's appropriate or...
Can I add a comment prior to that that might flesh it out a little bit? And I'm hoping that maybe when they apply initially, that the language at the front counter could be something like depending on the neighborhood, it's probably a 50-50 chance rather than it possibly might have
Yeah.
a chance of passing because it gives them not clear direction. And
I think we have been giving clear, at least every time one's been brought to my attention, it's been made very clear that these are, you're going to have to make a strong case for these requests, and there's a chance always, if it's at consent, that it'll get forwarded to the full board if you're not comfortable with, what they're proposing. So that is made clear. I'll make sure we can reiterate that to counter staff, but usually they come and ask me about it, and I relay that to the applicant. So,
okay. Thank you.
they are aware, but I think they're
I
trying
just
to
wanted
push
to be
these
fair
through.
to the applicants as well as us.
So, Lisa, you've been doing the last stint of consent calendar.
Last 3 months.
Yeah. So what's your feeling? What's your sense? Should they come directly to us
Yeah.
regardless?
Well, I'd like to hear from Joe as well, because we've
Right.
had an onslaught, and I think that, yeah.
Okay. And as I recall, there's only one that's come before this board in the last several months that the board, I voted no, approved. So
No, two, well, yeah.
I think one that actually, I may be wrong without doing some investigation. So what's everybody else's thought?
My thought is it should be a non-event because just like any architectural design element, it's part of the house. And if the owner wants it and it fits in, then it should be considered. I don't think they should be ruled out for any particular reason. We're in a high fire area.
Maybe
and-
if instead of having a discussion, we just take a straw vote.
Okay,
That'd be best.
all right. So you want to lead the straw vote?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
To go
Or how does
favor
it-
of what?
This is that
I'm in
all of
favor of
those
what?
roofs are going to come to the full board,
Directly to
not
full
to
board rather than
consent.
consent,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Until
Yeah,
we
okay.
come
So
to
that's
that
the
further.
straw question.
Yes.
So the question is, how many of us feel that they automatically need to come before the full board?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so everyone. Okay, thank you.
I'm sure Joe will agree at this point.
Okay, all right. Does that help? Okay, thank you. All right, that just means our agendas get a little longer, but that's the way it is. Okay. Let's see. Anything else, Katie?
No, that's it. Thank you.
I don't think we have any other subcommittees, so I think we'll go to the AIA announcement.
Oh, thank you very much. Chair Sweeney, board members, my name is Chris Manson-Hing. I'm from the AIE Santa Barbara chapter here to announce our 10th annual Architect Tours Rediscover Downtown. Santa Barbara, imagine how you can live, work, and play. And I guess we'd all be familiar with the discussions that we're having revitalizing downtown. So I think that this tour is really, the perfect timing for this. But you would see in front of you, we have this little flyer for the 2018 tour. We have a very good mix of commercial and residential projects. This is going to be on October the 6th, Saturday, October the 6th, and it's a walking tour of the downtown area. We have 12 projects, commercial and residential, some very interesting residential projects also. We have Jeff Shelton's El Zapato. We have the work, live units of the Shubin Donaldson project. We have a penthouse unit on the Granada Tower. We'll have a lot of multifamily, some of which are revitalizing some areas. So I think it's very apropos for this type of tour. Today is actually the last day to get early bird tickets at a lower price, so that's just something that I toss out there. Again, and there'll be an after party from 4 to 6. I think it's one of those tours that you can actually truly walk from spot to spot, but give yourself the whole day. I mean, if you want to be in one spot for a while, it'd be good to, maybe ride a bike. But it's all in the heart of downtown here, as opposed to all over the city. So, which is really a nice tour for us here. So with that, the next time I see you, I'll see you once more before the tour, and then I'll come back and give you a little bit more details of each project. Okay?
Okay.
So, question, what's the early bird price and what is it?
I don't have it here with me, but if you go to the AIA site, which you see up there now, and you click on the upcoming events, Architect Tours, you'll get a link here for tickets available here. And then there's also that advanced press release here that would kind of run you through the whole item. But let's see, if I were to go here and answer your question, and I click on that just to get so let's see, there you go. So you got your early bird tickets on sale through the 17th, so $55 for seniors and AIA members, $65 for the general public. They go up to $80 for the general public after today.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Question over there?
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
That's it? Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, glad to have you. Okay, we are not doing item number 1, so we're at item number 2. It's scheduled for 3:30. Can we go ahead and start?
Yeah, we're within 15
We're within
minutes.
15 minutes. So is the applicant for 2327 Edgewater Way here? If you'll come forward, please. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Hi.
Our landscape design show
Okay.
up in a minute.
Okay. one on. If you're talking to that one. Okay. All right, so this is 2327 Edgewater Way. This is here for comments only. Project still requires Planning Commission review. Project was last reviewed on August 20th, 2018. If you introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, I'm Jacob Nixto with Becker Hansen Nixto Architects.
I'm Alicia Harrison, land use planner with Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Miller, can you read the actions we took last time, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Number one, the board appreciates the proposed style and design of the project. Number two, restudy the proposed size and bulk of the project to be more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Number three, restudy reducing the size of some of the rooms. Number four, restudy reducing the plate heights to be more in keeping with human scale. Number five, provide elevations, including landscaping, to improve the connection with the proposed architecture. Number six, the board understands the easement issue difficulties of formulating an acceptable landscape plan. Action taken by Miller, seconded by Farrell. Motion was carried.
Thank you. So if you could share with us how you addressed those comments, please.
Yeah, I first wanted to make a few comments. Like I noted, I'm Alicia Harrison. I'm a land use planner with Brownstein, and I've been working with the architect and the owner for about 18 months now. So I just had a few very brief comments that I wanted to make before we get into the detailed design presentation.
Okay.
You should have received a letter from the owners, and so I just wanted to reiterate, I think that came in on Friday. Just want to reiterate the points there that this is not a speculative house. I think that's just important to note. The owners purchased this property in 2007 with the goal of it being for their family, for a retirement home for them and their family. And so the specifications and the design layout are per the family's needs, not for speculative market or potential residential market for this neighborhood. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay.
I also just wanted to, there's been some comments about changes that have happened on this project, so I wanted to talk very briefly about the project history for this project as well. So they've been in the process since 2015, and early on in the process, the owners and the architect team were very cautious and very diligent, given that this is a very unique property. So they met with the planning, consulted with planning, and got some initial feedback to make sure that how they were proceeding was going to be consistent with policy. So as resulting from that consultation, the original project, which came before your board, maintained the existing residence and then built part of the new residence behind that existing residence. And as you recall, that came before your board, or many of you members that were here in 2016, and you had favorable comments on that board. Or on that project design. Unfortunately, it ends up some of that initial feedback that we received during those planning consultations was incorrect. And so it was ultimately determined that the project, as originally proposed, required certain geological findings that couldn't be made under that proposed design. So the owners and the architect team were reluctantly sent back to the drawing board to, again, kind of grapple with the policy issues as newly interpreted by the planning staff. And resulting, as you saw last time, in actually demolition of that existing structure. So there have been many bumps in the road along the way for this property and the property owners, and they've been incredibly responsive and thoughtful in their redesigns and the coming up with the program that works for them, but that's also consistent with policy. And so what we have before you today, we believe to be consistent with the planning policies and criteria, as well as with the design guidelines, working very hard to address both of those issues. And the architect team has been very diligent and responsive and came up with a plan that is made some substantial and meaningful changes to address your primary concern related to size, bulk, and scale. So with that, Jake Nixto will walk you through the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, so in just kind of looking through the comments one by one, the first is that the board appreciates the proposed style. We've tried to maintain that style, and in doing so, we think we've been responsive to the comments while still maintaining the style that the board originally appreciated. Comment number 2 was to restudy the proposed size and bulk of the project to be more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. So in a broad brush picture, we have taken off almost 200 square feet from the project. which puts us down to an 82% FAR for the site. This is basically reflected. We've got a kind of dashed line here on the site plan that shows where we were. We've shrunk the overall length and massing by about 12 feet. And then on the elevations, there's further reduction to bulk and scale as well. We've lowered the plate heights. We've lowered the finish floors, and we've reduced the roof pitch, which again will be more apparent when we kind of walk through the elevations. But I did want to mention that now. So in looking at the idea of neighborhood compatibility, one of the things we wanted to do was to confirm that a two-story house would be appropriate in this Edgewater Way neighborhood. And so we walked through the neighborhood, and the highlighted properties are properties that do have a second story to them. So there's a fair amount of second story properties within this neighborhood, and we thought it would be reasonable to say that that would be appropriate. So in looking at where to locate the second story massing and how to lay out the massing of the house in general, we have a few primary considerations that we were looking at. The first is that to the east side of the property, we have the benefit of a row of established trees that have been there at least since Carol and Brad bought the house in 2007. And they are of a significant height, almost 45 feet at the tallest point, ranging down to, as an estimate, 30 feet or so. For scale comparison, you can somewhat see the two-story house that's being built on the other side, this house here, just through the trees right there. So these are significant trees that will provide a visual block. They've been there for a while, so they won't be impacting anyone's view corridor from other areas. The second site consideration is very early on. Carol and Brad asked us to be considerate of their northern neighbor, Dominic and his family, and their view corridor down to the bluff and ocean. You can see the existing house outline is here, so their historic view corridor has been to the south and slightly west. So we've tried to be respectful of that view corridor and also push, our house more towards the east and not towards the back where it would be right up in their immediate vicinity. So they really have tried to be good neighbors in that regard. The third item that we'd like to kind of point out in the lot is the slope of the lot. And there's actually, like many of the lots in this neighborhood, there's a decent slope from the street down to the bluff edge. If you look at the contour elevations, it's at about 148 up here at the street, and it goes down to about 138 at the very end of the bluff. It's a 10-foot drop. Our house is positioned such that the front edge, kind of the lower edge where we've tried to establish our finished floor, is about 141. It's a little bit easier to see here on this enlarged version. The grade elevation up here at this existing northern neighbor is about 147. And additionally, this particular neighbor, has reasonably built, the house was reasonably built up about 2.5, 3 feet above grade so that they could have that view. So that means the finished floor for this single-story house is about 6 feet taller plus 3 feet taller, becomes about 9 feet taller than the finished floor of our living room and primary area. So we've tried to use that to our benefit in that this house acts as another form of natural screening from the street, so that you can see glimpses down the driveway, but we are really not much higher, if actually less, than the roof of this. And I've got a site section in here too that we'll take a look at in a second. So given all those factors, we have really tried to carefully push the house to the east and to the south, towards kind of nestling into the screening, behind the massing of the neighbor to the north, and make it as concealed from the street as possible. Where it is slightly visible, we've also tried to, in this latest go-round, pull out the first floor massing, which is this kind of gray here, so that there is a first story element that steps up to the second story element from this primary view corridor right here. Additionally, where we do have a slight overlap of two-story elements with the neighbor here, we've further pulled our second-story element away from their property so that we're trying not to be visually close. And as we'll see in the floor plan, there's just simply two small windows and a bathroom and a closet there so that it is not impeding upon this neighbor's privacy in that location. So I know there has been some question about the FAR calculations on our lot, given that we are on a bluff-top property. And we do see that given our official calculations, the city is asking us to calculate based on the lot. We have done so, and it has been about 82% of FAR. But that doesn't include, as just a reminder, the Hacks own 4 adjacent properties here. And the FAR calculation does not include these 2. So if we decided to study this, if we were to include those, the same amount of square footage would be a 78 square foot. But of course, we understand that the concern is that on buildable bluff-top area. So if we were to simply take the same 4 lots that the Hacks owned and have owned for the same time and consider only the area that you could walk around on, reasonably considered, lots, even though there happens to be a property line in the middle of them, we would be still at 83% of FAR. So we have tried to be reasonable about bringing the size down in what would be a practical manner, not just a by the letter of the law manner. So if we take a look, as we flip to the next page, these are 2 site sections, one running north and south. And as I was mentioning previously, the house to the north, this would be Edgewater Way and their property line. It's about, the grade level's at about 146, 147, and the house is built up at 2 to 3 feet above that, so we're estimating 149.6. Our finished floor for the living room is 141.9, and our finished floor, as we kind of step up, one step up the slope lot, is 143. So when we've pulled down our plate heights, we've lowered our roof pitch, and by the time you consider that this single-story house has what appears to be a 6 and 12, 8 and 12, something in that vicinity, we are essentially at a very similar overall height, if not lower than the house from the street. And so we truly feel that that provides a natural blocking, and we try to nestle our massing in behind that to screen it from the neighbors. If we look quickly at the east-west site section, we are further south down the property than the adjacent neighbor here, so our finished floor is slightly lower, but we have also tried to pull down our plate heights, make the massing feel reasonable, and pull away where we do happen to overlap. The legal property line is 53 feet. There's also a 34-foot easement that the Hacks do not own, but is of benefit to their property. That means that essentially nothing will be built in that 34-foot zone. So we've tried our best to really pull down, be considerate, be reasonable of the massing with the other houses in the neighborhood. The board's comment number 3 was to restudy the size of some of the rooms, and as part of our 200 square foot reduction, we have reduced the size of the bedrooms, the living room, the stair hall, the kitchen, all here and there. Another aspect that we did to reduce massing is we pulled the garage in 12 feet, and instead of driving in this way, which required the garage to be further toward the northern neighbor, we've oriented it so that we can drive in this way, and eliminating the extra massing that configuration required. We've shown furniture, which again that we believe The hacks are trying to be reasonable, not exorbitant with the furniture, but comfortable for their family. Mr. Hack is a 6-foot guy. He's not a small gentleman, but we do believe we've lowered the sizes and tried to be reasonable about what you might expect in those rooms. The board's comment number 4 was to restudy the plate heights to be more in keeping with the human scale. Our plate heights at the garage and bedroom level on the first floor are now at 8 feet. The northern portion of the second story is also at an 8-foot plate height. We've pulled that down while still trying to leave a little height for the bedrooms that are downstairs. The living room and public areas, the living room, dining room, and kitchen that are downstairs, we've proposed a 9-foot plate height, being that it steps down with the site and that those are kind of the larger rooms. So we hope that's reasonable. And on the second story, the master bedroom and this bedroom share an 8'2" plate height as well. The board's comment number 5 was to provide elevations, including landscaping, to improve the connection with the proposed architecture. Well, we've shown at least a reasonable rendering of the screening that we anticipate to be on the east elevation, while also showing kind of the landscaping, the minor landscaping that that Derek has got on his plans for the west, the south, and the north. I would also like to point out, I will say on the next sheet, it is a little clouded. On the next sheet, we've got a clear version for you. But we did, this dotted line here on all 4 of the elevations is the previous outline from when we last presented. So we have pulled the massing down significantly with the plate height reductions in certain areas and the slope of the roof, which is now 4 and 12 instead of 5 and 12. We can flip to the next page. We do have a standard 7-foot head height for doors and windows on the first floor, 6'8" on the second floor to kind of bring that down. And in the special areas of the living room and dining room where they are anticipating the nice ocean view, we do have 8-foot doors and windows in those locations. This is the landscape plan.
If you could introduce yourself for the record, please.
Derek Eichelberger, Arcadia Studio, landscape architect. The plan stayed almost exactly as the previous submittal, with the exception of the necessary modifications around the driveway area. A little bit larger planter here, new arrival sequence parking on both sides of here with the brick walkway extending further out into the driveway. You can see it better here, sorry. That's it.
And might I add, we do also have 3 new trees planted here to make sure that the screening from this deck the view corridor from this deck is directed to the south and the west where the ocean is and not to the east towards the neighbors.
Those were on there in the previous submittal also.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. We're going to go to public comment before we go to questions and comments from the board. But before we do that, I do have one speaker that's present would like to speak that will have 2 minutes to address the board. But unfortunately, we received several letters just prior to the meeting, so I'm sure none of us have had a chance to even look at them. So we're going to recess for a few minutes so that the board has an opportunity to read. I think there's 3 additional letters that we received just before the meeting. Review those, and then I'll bring it back to public comments. So if you want to take a few minutes just to look at those letters, please. The board will bring the meeting back to order. We do have one speaker here, Mr. Dominic Namath. If you'll come forward, please. Can I get him to use maybe that microphone, please? Thank you. Is that light on? I can't tell. If you could just state your name for the record, please.
My name's Dominic Namneth.
Okay.
I am the owner and full-time resident at 2325 Edgewater Way, which is the house that's being discussed as far as the northerly
This house?
Yes.
Okay.
Neighbor. I've also been there 10 years. We bought the houses at the exact same time. I do appreciate the fact that it's going down in size and height and all that stuff. So I think the information that was talked about at the last meeting is being reflected in the new design. I have a couple of issues. One, the easement issue, which I know is not in your purview to discuss or deal with. I've made various attempts to try to work that out. While I see that there is an advantage to not having the driveway right against my house, I also don't treat that 9-foot easement as community property. It is a granted easement, and my only desire is that, if the Hacks were to use their resources prior to using my property to achieve their driveway width, it would be a simple process of using their 10 and whatever makes up the difference on my side to adjust that. You can see on the new plan, as the driveway enters their property fully, it moves out to the full width of the easement and their property. So it seems to me it'd be just as easy to draw a straight line there and make that suitable. They would get what they want as far as the driveway width goes. I know there was an issue with the telephone pole out on the street, but that's clearly a foot away from their property line. So I would imagine a competent designer could avoid a telephone pole. The other offer was the 3-foot easement on the easterly side of the property, which has no utility or value to me at all. I did make a suggestion that, there's a pepper tree in the corner of the property that I wanted to put a fence up to jog around the tree a little bit, a foot or so, so we can protect that tree. That was summarily rejected. And so we're just left on our side of giving into whatever demands or requests they have without any type of compromise on their side. Every offer is met with basically a no. And I sent you a copy of the discussion that we had, and you can see the attempts made to try to reconcile it have fallen on deaf ears. So I would just like the consideration of this board to try to persuade them to reconsider how that driveway is configured.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else in the audience wishing to address the board? Just for the record, we did receive several letters. Get back here to. We received earlier in the week a letter from John Charette, who was in supporting the project, as previously stated by the presenters. We did receive a letter from the applicant. We did receive a lengthy letter from the gentleman that just spoke. We have another letter from Bernie Bernstein, who's concerned about the size and location of the project. We also have a letter from Sally Witnoff with the same concerns. I think that got through all of us. So everyone's had a chance to look at that. With that, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions and discussions. And before we get too much into our individual questions, Katie, I do have a couple of procedural questions, just so we're clear. It's my understanding this project is here today because it wants comments prior to going to the Planning Commission.
That's correct.
And that's typically the process here. An applicant comes to us and says, gee, from an aesthetic standpoint, from a size, bulk, and scale, location on the site, so forth and so on, are you guys okay with it? Or if you're not, then tell us before we spend a lot of time going to the Planning Commission, because that's a whole different procedure. But it's my understanding that's what they're here doing. If we conclude today that we can make favorable comments, then we would make an action that moves it on to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is another public hearing and another public process, and they look at different things than we look at. They look at the zoning issues, et cetera. One of the questions I had, Katie, is that we are explicitly told we can't deal with easement issues, that's not in our bailiwick, et cetera. Do the easement issues get addressed at the Planning Commission level?
It's a land use decision. I'm not familiar if they would.
Okay. But there is another public hearing, that's another
Yes.
public process. When they complete that process and the Planning Commission may or may not approve the project or give it the requirements as defined by the Coastal Commission Act, but if they were, then that project actually comes back to us for an official review for what we call project design approval. And at that point, we may accept what they present, we may make comments, we may send them back for adjustments, et cetera. But at some point, we typically will make a decision to give it project design approval or not. If we give it project design approval, that has a 10-day appeal period. That appeal goes directly to the City Council, and that starts the process over again, depending on what the council does. There is another public hearing that occurs near the end of a project. Once it's received project design approval and there's been no appeal, it can then proceed to development for a full set of working drawings. Those working drawings come back to this board for our review. And once we make a decision about approval or non-approval, if we do approve it, that also has a 10-day appeal period. And that appeal also goes directly to the City Council. So for the community and the neighbors, et cetera, there will be other public hearings regarding this project as they go through this process. Let's see. I think I'll reserve my other comments regarding the FAR until we get to that. But with that, let's go to individual questions, please. Who has questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm not too clear what he's saying about the driveway. He says he had a counter offer, or the neighbor had, what was it he wanted?
As you recall, when we last saw this project,
Yeah,
the garage door was over here.
Right.
This garage was out where this
Yeah.
dash line is.
correct.
And you came into the garage that way. The garage doors were here. To reduce the house, one of the strategies the applicant did was move the garage in, and now to make that work,
You made the motor court.
they made the motor court turn this way rather than that way.
Got it.
Okay?
Yeah.
Is that clear? Other questions? I just want to, I don't have really any questions except just to follow up on this, the driveway thing. So now we've got cars coming in, they're going to turn, and in the evening, the lights are going to shine that way, but we have an existing hedge. Do you have that photograph? And so I just wanted to be a little clearer. So that's occurring right in here? Am I reading this photograph correctly?
About that area.
Without that tree. So the heights of these existing trees that are owned on this other property provide what appears to be a significant screen to that part of that house. So even at night, the lights go in, there is some attempt to screen it.
There is a fence there as well.
And there is a fence. And what is that? Is it a chain link fence or what is it?
It's I believe, a wood slat.
So it's a wood slat fence that's existing, and is it on your client's side or the other side?
It appears for the surveyor to be down the...
Goes back and forth?
Yeah. it's
Okay. And
close.
you weren't intending to put a new fence here, right?
No, we were intending to leave the fence and the trees as they are.
As they are, okay. And on your landscape plan, that I was looking at, there's something in here. Is that a new, that's existing or is that new?
existing.
That's the existing hedge? Okay, and the property line on this plan is here?
It would be here.
Okay, the property line is here. Oh, there's your 6 feet, okay. So that piece of hedge is on your property, and that's there already, and that's part of what we see in that photograph. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, other questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, then let's go to comments. Who has comments? Lisa?
Comment? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the applicant has responded positively to our requests for reducing the plate heights and square footage, and is doing a good job to accommodate our requests. So I feel positive about it.
Other comments?
I also just want to tag on to that also your presentation, you were so thorough in everything and showing our exact criteria, and so I appreciate that as well.
Okay, other comments?
I'll third what both of them have said. I thought it was a very impressive presentation. I'm still a little confused about the driveway and the headlights, but because I thought they remedied that as well, but perhaps I missed something there.
Okay, other comments?
I tend to agree. I think you answered everything we asked for. I think you're sensitive. I think the plate heights it is probably a little bigger than what's normal in that neighborhood, but it's a transitional neighborhood, so you kind of have to compromise. And so I think what you've done is appropriate. So those are my comments.
Okay, other comments? Robert?
I agree that I think it was a good presentation. It's helpful to see the photographs of the site and how the building's going to be screened. I'm a little confused with the situation with the driveway, and clearly there's discussion here about trying to move the driveway away from the neighbor's house. So and it seems like if I live there, I'd be happy to have the driveway moved away from my house. So that's just my opinion, but hopefully that's something you guys can all work out.
Any other comments? Katie, I did have a question, additional question that came up on these letters that were submitted today. There's reference to the Sea Level Rise Adaptation Plan Subcommittee. Is that a subcommittee of the City Council? Do you know?
I'm not sure who it's a subcommittee of.
But we haven't been given any direction to hold off reviewing anything because
No,
of
and
this.
that's where the policy is headed. It's not adopted yet, so they're
All
just
policies get adopted. We're
they're in compliance with that policy.
exactly. So until that changes, we don't need to.
No, but they would still be in compliance with what the new policy would be. So.
All right. Let me go to one other document. You had a study you did of the FAR. Okay, I want to go to the FAR because I want to go to FAR and then into the floor or into the size, bulk, and scale issue. First of all, the community should know that our current guidelines and our current purview generally revolve around this notion of 85% FAR. And in some cases, we kind of have to bring it at that, but that's fairly rare. But most of the time, that's generally the number we tend to look at because it's the tool we have to get footprints smaller, et cetera. And one of the things that I think some people in the community may understand is that these bluff-top properties, as well as creekside properties, have a unique position with regards to how the current FAR guidelines and processes are in place. And what that is, and it's clearly stated in a couple of letters, is that the applicant is allowed to utilize the whole legal parcel as the square footage to get their FAR, but in the case of many of the bluff-top properties and creekside properties, their buildable area is at a certain point. So this land can never be touched, can never be built on. So if you do the math, it really starts to take the FAR, even if you had it at 85%, and it shoves that all the way towards generally the street in most cases, or towards the front of the property, particularly along the bluffs. And so that's very perplexing when we're trying to deal with keeping houses relatively compatible with the neighborhood. Because remember, one of our jobs is to determine whether or not projects can be compatible with the neighborhood. And has been pointed out, I think, by a couple of folks here, my colleagues on the board, this neighborhood is in transition, as are many neighborhoods in the community in transition as older properties get sold and purchased and then reconsidered, rebuilt, et cetera. So my comment to the community is, if you want to deal with that issue, then that issue needs to go to City Council. That's not an issue we can deal with because we have to work by certain rules and certain sets of guidelines. So until that gets changes, we don't have the prerogative to force an applicant to figure his FAR just on that. And as this applicant done, and I really appreciate this little diagram because it really goes to the fact that you all studied, and I appreciate all of the effort you've made here to get us where I think we need to be with regards to this property, but to share with other members of the community, we are limited, and we are also not privy to what the sea level rise study will do. And that is yet to come. So at this point, we only can deal with what's in front of us. The other thing I want to share with folks, and I've said it several times in the past, and I certainly appreciate the applicant's letter to us and understand where they're coming from, but this board needs to look at individual residences one at a time in terms of their compatibility with the neighborhood, in terms of their compatibility with the streetscape based on the architectural submission, the proposed size, bulk and scale, etc. Not necessarily on who lives in the house, who uses the house, etc. Because at the end of the day, the city of Santa Barbara and our community is going to be based on these physical structures that remain in place far longer than many of us sitting here in this board will be around, and or in sometimes, in most cases, the owners. We also have had the experience where we listen to stories about this and that, about the applicant, et cetera, and then we go out to the site and find out the house is on sale before it's even in construction. So we really have to pay attention to the physical attributes of what's being presented, not necessarily how the houses are going to be used. We certainly appreciate it. All of us live in Santa Barbara. We all have homes. I can tell you today that my home would never be approved by this board. Had it if this board existed when I built my house, it wouldn't. I mean, it just simply wouldn't have been approved. It was, out of scale and too big and whatever. Not too big. It's a tiny house, but it's still, for the neighborhood. So that's what we have to look at. So it's not that we're ambivalent to the users and the owners of the homes, but we kind of have to look a little bit beyond that. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that. I, too, agree with my colleagues. I think you've done an excellent job to get us where we needed to be. Thank you for getting the FAR down to the 82%. I think the scale is now where it needs to be. I think you're going to be really happy once this thing all goes into place. With regards to the motor court, I don't have windows, locations, et cetera, on this side, but you might want to just give that a little bit more thought as you move forward, whether it should have maybe a little thicker hedge or maybe you replace that little piece of fence or whatever. But short of that, I think you're there. I would hope that you have the opportunity between these two owners to work out the easement. I think there's been some expression that, yes, it would be much nicer if that roadway were away from that front of the house. I understand the complications and the issues with the soil and so forth and so on, but I would hope that the two parties are able to work out that easement exercise so that when you do return for consideration of project design approval, that discussion hopefully will have ended. So with that, are there any additional comments? Okay, hearing none, we are not taking a formal action. We have comments only. The applicant is seeking positive comments to proceed to the Planning Commission. So do I have someone that's willing to make a motion?
Yes, we'll make a motion, Mr. Sweeney. Can you hear me? Am I on? Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Okay, the board would like to give this project positive comments to go on to the Planning Commission, and I will elaborate on that we appreciate the reduction in the 200 square foot reduction and the lowering of plate heights on many of the on the roofs to 8 feet. The lowering of the roof pitch from 5 and 12 to 4 and 12. The lowering of the finished floor. and the reduced FAR. We find the garage configuration acceptable and would like to recommend possible study of an additional row of possible hedge material to provide further screening from possible headlight wash. Did I miss anything, Jan?
Okay, that's your motion?
That is
Okay.
my
Do I
motion.
have a- Do I have a second to that
I'll
motion?
second.
Okay. Katie, did we cover everything that's needed for Planning Commission?
Do you think the size, bulk, and scale is appropriate and the architectural style is appropriate?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We,
All right, anyone else? Okay, that's the motion on the floor. Any other comments to the motion on the floor? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Okay, we'll see you when you get back from Planning Commission. Thank you. Thank you.
Jake, do you want to take the other two sets, otherwise I'll recycle them?
Anything about adjacent lots that they have? And they're not built on, so doesn't that help a FAR ratio if it's the same owner or not?
It's not the same.
I see.
Right.
I'm sorry. Oh, you were excusing yourself? Oh, okay.
Okay, we're at item number 3, 1625 Overlook Lane. Project's here for final approval. Project requires compliance with Tier 3 Stormwater Management Program. Project was last reviewed May 14th, 2018. If you could introduce yourselves, please.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Ken Radke with Blackbird Architects representing the owners.
Ray Twyford with Blackbird Architects.
Welcome. Mr. Miller, do we have comments from last time we looked at this?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Number one, at the next hearing, the board will reconsider a new project design approval if they find that the proposed project has made a substantial change from what was previously approved. 2, applicant to review the city requirements for final documents prior to the next review submittal. Number 3, provide a specific and detailed landscape plan. Number 4, provide a final civil set of drawings specifically indicating floor finish levels and gradient changes typical to civil drawings. Number 5, provide Tier 3 Stormwater Management Program, SWIMP, requirements for review by staff. Number 6, provide a lighting plan and exterior lighting details and locations, including any lighting proposed at the entry drive, the site, and any proposed lighting at the address element location at the entry to the site. Number 7, if other than approved original exterior stone material is proposed, provide a photograph or sales cut sheet of the exterior wall finish details, including poured colored concrete details and configuration. Number 8, on plan sheet A-1.2, provide a clear alternative graphic of the definitive resolution of the difference and changes made from the previous approved original floor plan configuration on the northwest corner, so the board can clearly understand the change made in agreement with the adjacent property owners. Action taken by Sweeney, seconded by Motisha. Motion was carried.
Thank you. So if you could share with us how you've addressed these comments, please.
They are all addressed. The plan set isn't in the order of those, so maybe we should just flip through that and you'll see those. I mean, generally, the first comment is about the degree to which this might vary from the previous design, and that degree is absolutely intended to be minimal. Essentially identical to the previous plan. So I'll minimize the comments and focus on your questions. You're familiar with the sign and site photos. You asked about the civil plans, and so civil and tier 3 has all been taken care of, and that the finished floors are very accurately proposed per the previous design and previously reviewed project. Floor level here, 272.29 is 4.01 feet below the existing finished floor. So that's kind of been the final floor elevations of that. And there's erosion control, stormwater is handled on the bottom of the project in a kind of the vaulted recharge system. This reminds you of the existing site plan, the house all the way at the back and a pool in the middle. This is the previously approved plan. The request was to identify what changes are proposed to have been made. And just by the way, last time we were here and the agreement with the neighbors had gotten a little misunderstood. Obviously, we have been working and conferring with them, and architect Rob Mell is here. He's been helping the neighbors, the mains to this side, and one thing that was done very specifically with them was to work on this view, sort of corridor angling across the corner of this site. And so that's really one of the few changes that has happened, is that this blue outline of the project before this bathroom has been reined in and kind of pulled back. In addition to that, and in part in order to accomplish that, the back corner of the project has been moved 3 foot 10 inches back towards.
We can't hear. I'm sorry. That's as loud as it'll go. I'm sorry. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
3 foot 10 inches back towards the back property line there. So the shape of the house stays the same other than this one corner, and it's moved back here. One other little spot, there was a kind of a storage room here at the back of the garage that has been shortened, partly as a result of the constraint of the setback. So in plan, one small change to the proposed entry sort of view screening wall, just a site wall, but that's really not visible from anywhere off the site. This is a new drawing. It's a little odd because the gate is up the hill. Generally speaking, there is lighting proposed, so I'll kind of skip ahead and just highlight that there is lighting proposed on the exterior attached to the house, but there is no proposed separate exterior landscape lighting, so even out at the front. So nothing proposed out here. The gate as it exists is proposed to be this 3.5 foot tall gate. Its position in relation to the street is further up the driveway, so that's why it looks like a gate in the sky. But that is just because it's well back of the property line up the hill. These plans are extremely similar to what was proposed before. There were some questions last time about the elevations and exactly what might be varying, and you can see quite precisely what changes have happened. So if we start at this northeast elevation, it's really all the same, other than this one spot where it gets pulled in, partly in relation to that sort of bathroom at the neighbor side. The southwest elevation, all the same, other than a piece that's far to the back, which was relating again to that bathroom. You can see there's just a couple tiny little spots. We've tried to be meticulous where things vary by an inch or something here and there. Again, if we look at the southeast elevation, that element at the back, this little storeroom area, got pulled in. And this is that sort of bathroom corner in question where the corner of the building was pulled back in order to give a little bit more diagonal view to the neighbors. The material palette is essentially proposed to be identical to what was proposed before. These are the general site sections. All the, on these sections and elevations, the heights are mentioned. Here's some details that would be of interest, potentially. Here's the siding, which is the proposed sandstone siding. On this one, there's some rain chains here and there. And what else is, this one here is probably fairly common throughout the house. We've got just a flat fascia with a hidden gutter behind. The railing is probably of interest. Universally throughout the project, the railing is not at the edge of these decks or roof patios, so that railing is not on the outboard edge, but always inset back in. It's a steel stanchion with a cable and a wood cap. Generally, the punched openings have as deep a reveal as we can get out of our framing, pretty much. And the sort of typical sort of metal frame windows that you would expect as proposed before. This is the landscape sheet, and this is the hardscape plan. I think we might jump ahead to the planting plan, which was also coordinated in conjunction with the neighbors. So some slight variations have been made here to the planting. The exact species of toyon that is proposed, so these downhill plants are proposed to be the toyon that would wind up being in the 6 to 10 foot range, as opposed to the species that would get taller. Trees and so forth at the back are all the same as previously proposed. Let's see, what am I missing? Oh, lighting. There's no lighting shown there, but there is a lighting plan that shows the inside lighting and a few shielded light fixtures that are attached on the outside, typically near doors to the outside. So the proposed light is this small, modest, cylindrical downlight. And that's pretty much it in terms of that.
Okay.
Available for questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, before we go to questions and comments from the board, I have two speakers. And lots of letters today, so I'll make sure I didn't get. All right, so we have two speakers. Katie, we didn't get any other letters that I.
No written comment.
Okay, thank you. So Ellie, is it Ellie Allen? Okay, I will read your questions in a moment. Martha Kay. Yes, if you'll come forward, please. And if I can have her sit maybe in that chair, please. Is this? Introduce your name for the record, please.
My name is Martha Kay, and my husband and I, David, live to the northeast part of the property that is coming up for approval. And we were here for most of last year for the various meetings on this, but we weren't able to attend the last meeting of the Single Family Design Board. Good afternoon, everybody, and Chair Sweeney. At the time when we last met, before things came to a close at the end of 2017, our concern was for the height indicated for that second-story gym room, which has now been designated as a bedroom in your new plans at You're from Blackbird Architecture, yeah. We could not hear very well behind you, so I hope I'm not repeating. In the previous architect's plan, this gym room hovered 19 feet above ground level at the entry of the home. And when we left in 2017, there was talk of cutting down the height of that room based on the coming down the hill a little bit, unless I'm mistaken. Last Friday, September 14th, we went to view the new plan that you have left here at the Gebhardt Building for people to, and the office there where we could look at the plans. And it indicated this bedroom will now be 20 feet above ground level. Could you please explain the reason for this increase in height to 20 feet? And my second question is, while reviewing the plans, we also noticed the landscaping plans, which included 6 to 8 oak trees along the property line, which appear to be capable of reaching a height that will eventually obliterate the modest view that we enjoy of the city from our house to the back of Mr. Surian's property, and a portion, we see a little bit of the harbor. And we've been there for 45 years and have grown to love it. Is there any way to revisit the number and height of the trees that will line the northeast property lines so that 3 property owners of this project can be able to see? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? The previous person that is concerned about the height, what was approved by the board 2017, and then how tall were the type of trees selected eventually to grow? So those are her 2 questions. Okay, anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Okay, let's bring it back to the board for questions. Before we go to our individual questions, Katie, at this point, we've already given this project design approval.
That's correct.
Any design issues that were of concern could have been appealed during the 10-day appeal period following the project design approval.
That's correct.
As far as we know, there was an appeal and then it was withdrawn.
That's correct.
Correct. And so this effort today is to determine whether or not the drawings are complete and ready to go to the building department, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Colors and materials.
Colors, materials, et cetera. Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
I have a question.
So, individual questions. Yes, go ahead.
Can I see the minutes for a sec? I'm a little puzzled as to what this means. Maybe at the next hearing, the board will reconsider a new project design approval if they find that the proposed project has made a substantial change from what was previously approved.
Yes, and the reason for that is the last time they were here, the drawings didn't have a lot of things on it.
Oh.
And so we were trying to figure things out. So I will comment when I get comments on that.
That's my other question.
Okay. Other questions? Anyone else? Questions? Yes, Lisa, go ahead.
Never mind.
Okay.
Already been, we're not looking at great heights.
Okay. One thing that wasn't that was not clear at the last time is there was some discussion about changing the originally proposed stone siding to poured and placed form board concrete. What am I getting? You're now back to stone? Because I saw that detail.
We're sticking with the stone.
Okay. And so the stone that you originally proposed is now back in play.
Yep.
Okay. And then I want to go back to your lighting sheet.
Yeah, it's pretty far back here.
Okay, so the area, the roof overhang does it hang out over here? Here. So this is exterior, so there are some downlights that'll be in that 12 or 14 inch roof area.
Yeah.
So there's 3 there. You have 1 downlight in the entryway. You have no, do you have any surface-mounted lights on the building?
A couple of these wall sconces
Okay.
that are at 4 locations.
And a minute ago, the staff brought over, I think, is that what those are?
That's the support.
Okay. And then they brought over the York, condensers are where, just to remind us? I think we may already heard.
Just outside.
There's pool equipment in here and condensers right there.
All right, and that's basically, that's that fixture, okay. And then my other question was, is there any lighting within the pool or around the pool deck or anywhere down here?
No, it would all be up at the spaces up near the house.
So there's no lighting in the
There would be
pool?
some lighting in the pool.
In the pool itself?
Yeah.
That will be required.
Right, that's
by code.
kind of a pool thing. But there's no lighting out here, and no lighting out here. And I think I heard you tell me, let's just go back to, maybe this is the easiest thing to look at, that there is no lighting all the way up this driveway.
That's correct.
And no lighting in the motor court.
None proposed.
Okay, and no lighting out in the general landscape, as I heard it, okay. Let's see, let's look at the question about, just to double check. Let's see, it's on your elevations, I think. Let's go back to your elevations. Right there, okay, so I'm just going to do it the hard way. The scale is 1/8 inch. So we have 10 feet, 9-foot ceiling height for the first floor at this level, 10 feet to the second floor level. We have 9 feet to the underside of the overhang and 10 feet to the top. So we have 20 feet. And that blue line indicates what we had reviewed the previous meeting to the last meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And from a zoning code standpoint, Katie, they can be under, is it 30 feet for this zone?
That's correct.
30
30
feet.
feet is the maximum height.
So any building on this site could go to 30 feet, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so they're 10 feet below that at this point. And originally, without having to go pull all those plans back,
I have the rolled set of drawings if you'd like them.
why don't you pull those out just for a second? When you have time, we'll go back to that. I don't want to hold things up. And then let's go back to your landscape plan. Let's see. Which is way back here, right? Like L2?
Planting one is like L2.
That one, right? Okay. So you said something to the effect that, are you adding, are these the oak trees? These guys?
Those are new, yes.
And are those new since we last saw this project?
No.
No.
So they've been on the plan for a long time?
Yes. The only
Okay.
thing we changed was these were also oaks, and we changed
You
those.
took those
to
away?
toy-ons. Yes.
Okay, and those are what now?
The toy-ons.
The smallest
The
ones.
10-foot max.
Okay. So, whoops, that me? Usually she buzzes me.
I think you got to speak into the microphone.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Every time you hear that phone, then it's you.
Not me.
That's- I have a
We
mic
got
here.
those.
I apologize.
Okay. Let's just look at something.
Got to talk into it so they can hear you on the other end.
Got it.
Okay, the previous architect, let's see if we can find something here. There it is. 3/16 of an inch. And the previous project was 20 feet from day one. So it's always been 20 feet. Okay. So it was 20 feet when it was first put in by the other architect. It's 20 feet by you guys. It's always been 20 feet as best I could tell, unless Katie, you got some different knowledge than I do. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and I was curious. Sorry, I'll pull it back in a minute. I think these guys had a landscape plan, maybe? No. I don't think so.
The plan was in the front.
Oh, yes, in
somewhere.
front. There's trees. There's trees.
You all are leaving the existing oleanders, I noticed.
Yeah, okay, and there's always been oak trees from day one here. That was even by the previous architect. Okay. All right, so that's been well reviewed on several of occasions. Okay. Thank you, Katie. All right, let's go to, and the one last question. Oak trees, how high, Lisa?
35 feet and 50 years.
Okay. Robert?
I agree.
Agree. And these guys down here, how high?
Oh, 10, 12 feet,
Okay.
15 maybe. They're really happy, but you can, they're easily kept at a low height.
Okay, thank you.
Lot
And
more than oaks.
can the oak trees be continually trimmed at a low height? So you can make, you can manage them at some place, right?
Absolutely.
Like I do at my house.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So I have a neighbor problem too. Okay, thank you. All right. Any other questions?
Roof material? Did we just clarify?
They had a, whoops, Katie handed.
Colorboard? There you go.
Colorboard, there we go.
Generally, it's the extreme low slope roof with a liquid applied membrane and with a mineral cast in on the surface.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? If not, let's go to comments. Who has comments? Okay. If no one has comments, if you do, step in. But we are here to determine whether or not this looks like a final set of drawings. We don't give it a thorough review, but generally, for those of us that are in the business, we typically kind of understand what a final set of drawings looks like. So I'm just going to quickly thumb through the sheets. I was watching as you were thumbing earlier to make sure that all of the components for the things that we're to review are in play. So all of the civil sheets, storm-free water management is in play. Robert or Lisa, do you have any comments on those? I think those were previously reviewed. Lots of civil sheets. Architectural sheets, existing, proposed, site details we requested, floor plans, roof plans, elevations and finishes, sections, site sections that we requested. Foundation details, floor and roof details. That's where I picked up the stone. Okay. Window details, door details, corner details, joint details, landscape plan.
The motor court is decomposed granite?
That's what they're proposing, yes.
Landscape plan. Landscape plans. Okay. Electrical. And we typically do not look at structural sheets and plumbing plans. Okay. Anyone else with comments? Okay, if not, then the chair would look for a motion to the board. The applicant is here for final design. Anyone ready to do that?
I'll do it.
Okay. Mr. Miller.
I move to give this project design and final approval.
It's already got project design approval.
We're here just for final.
So do I give it neighborhood preservations? Or?
No.
We already did that.
That's already been.
So I'll just give it final.
Okay. So you're here for final approval?
Yes.
No additional comments?
I don't see any, no.
Okay. Robert, you satisfied?
Yeah, looks good.
So the motion on the floor is to give the applicant final approval. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay. We have a second for final approval. Is there any comments to the motion? Okay. I just want the neighbors to understand this has had a thorough review, probably one of the projects we've had, at least in the 7 years I've been on this board, a thoroughly thorough review, including site visits by the board, story polls. I mean, we've done everything that this board in its toolkit has to review this project. And the applicant has changed architects, et cetera, to continue to try to make sure that the project complies not only with our general architectural style and compatibility issues, but also with compatibility issues with the neighborhood. We have viewed the project from various neighbors' sites, et cetera. I'm sure that not everyone's going to be completely happy with how this project was approved and done, but I suspect when it actually gets in the air, it's going to be way less concerning than it is as folks may see it on paper. So I'm comfortable that we're there. It's been a long journey. So I think we're ready to go. So the motion on the floor is to give it final approval. Yes, final approval. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. That decision does have an appeal period. It's 10 days from today. If you not in accordance with our decision, you can appeal. It goes directly to the City Council.
I'd just like to clarify that the appeal would be on the final approval only, so that would be the colors, materials, lighting,
Right.
the items that were discussed today, not the project in its entirety.
Yeah, it's not an appeal to an entirety. It's not revisiting the height of the buildings, et cetera. It's just on the materials and the final details of the project. That's what's appealable. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. This Katie's or is that yours?
This one was here.
That goes to there. This goes to there. 4:30. Oh. Okay. Let the record show that Mr. Motisha has rejoined us. Welcome. Thank you. Let's go now to 2530 Mesa Lane. This is a new project, so I will be reading into the record the project description as provided. This is here for comments only because it requires an environmental assessment. Is the applicant here?
Okay.
Yes, please come forward. Oops. You'll have a seat. You can take those seats there, please.
Let me state a quick correction that it's Mesa's School Lane.
Whoops. What did I say?
Mesa Lane.
Mesa Lane, sorry. That was my misreading.
Okay, yeah, see.
Okay. If you'll introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Andrew Vonnegut.
Kim Kotnick.
Okay, welcome. So this is a proposal for additions and alterations to an existing 1,951 square foot, two-story single residential unit with a 440 square foot attached two-car garage. Proposed project includes a first-floor addition of 391 square feet and a second-story addition of 292 square feet. Other site improvements include a new covered porch, a complete re-roof, new siding to match existing new doors and windows, and a remodel of interior spaces. Proposed total of 3,074 square feet of development on an 11,247 square foot lot is 79% of the maximum allowable floor-to-lot area ratio. The proposed project is located in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone and will require coastal review. So if you could share with us what you're doing, please.
The plan is to put we have an existing two-story, technically 1.5-story, it's a Cape Cod with dormers. The plan is to put a 14 by 30 addition onto the back. The plan is to put a 14 by 30 addition onto the back of the house that both is, so it'll be a new room on the ground floor and then to go up to match the existing roof line across the house here. So this is the existing house here, existing garage, and this is the proposed addition right here, and this is the porch area.
Okay. So do you have elevations?
Yes, we do. There.
Go through the sheets, please. So just to be clear, the addition is here?
The addition is this area right here. Yeah, this is the actual built-up area, and this is the new. This is the porch.
So this is existing.
Yeah,
right?
this is the new part right here.
Well, I understand that, but there's an existing building here, right?
The existing building ends right at this point.
So what's this line underneath here? Is that the existing house?
Let me take a look at that. Okay. Oh, I think that is the second floor plan that is shown
Okay,
from.
maybe we'll figure that
it's
out as
coming
we
from
go.
the other.
Maybe we'll get that as we go through the plan. Okay. So this is the existing floor plan?
Yes, first floor.
That's the existing second floor as it sits today.
That's right. And this is out in the eaves, which is why it's shaded like that.
And this is the new floor plan, so where is the additional square footage?
Right here.
So here.
Yes.
So this is the new square footage.
That's right.
That's an existing wall, this is the existing shape of the existing house?
Exactly.
Okay, so it's this piece that we're looking at?
That's right.
And that stairway, too.
And then the stairway, and then also from here over is new building, and then you're redoing part of this to tie it in,
The
correct?
stairway is existing.
Okay.
And this bedroom is existing, so we would be constructing this new part above the new bonus room and tying it into this bedroom right
So
here.
basically from about there over, it
Correct.
becomes new footprint.
That's right. And so this is the existing ridge line, and the new ridge line would come in and attach to the existing ridge line.
And there appears to be 1, 2, 3, 4 windows?
5, 6,
Five, six.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll come back to that.
And because of the peak of the roof, that's why we have storage down in those areas there.
Okay, so the new addition is where?
So this is the new addition here. This is the bottom, and then this is the top right here. And then this new ridge line
This is
comes.
existing.
That's right.
That's existing.
This is existing,
Okay.
and then this is
The new piece is up here.
this is the new bottom piece, new top piece.
Okay, all right. And here is,
Existing, end of the house, and then this is new bottom piece, new top piece.
okay, so this is that existing deck, and there's an existing door there?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
That's correct.
So this is the deck. Okay, gotcha. And that's the roof plan.
Yep.
And the building section, okay. Then, this a new covered porch? No.
Yes.
And the front of the house is where?
The front of the house would be
That way?
coming straight out towards you.
Towards you,
Right up here,
okay,
yeah.
so let's go back and look at the plan.
So you can probably see it there.
So that porch area is where?
That is first floor. And that is right here, but it's just it's a roof overhang. So
Okay, so the porch is not shown on this plan.
it's not shown because it's just it's the roof. It's a
Oh.
roof.
You have to show it on the plan, that's the
Okay.
problem. We're having a hard time understanding the drawing. So that porch is where?
Right here.
Okay. So, okay. All right. Anything else we need to show?
I think that's it. Yeah, I mean that's the main. That's the basic.
All right. Okay, before we go to questions of the board, I'm trying to keep track of all this stuff. Somewhere my agenda went.
We did receive some preliminary comments from you, which we're in the process of integrating into the
Right.
drawings. It will clarify some of the questions you've already brought up.
That's from the staff. But let me go, let's see. Go to here. I've got one speaker, and I have Mesa School Lane. I have one letter from a Michael and Sally Gazzoni, who says they support the project. Did everyone get a chance to look at that letter? You need any time to read it? Okay. And I have one speaker. Mike, you could come forward, please. You could. Yeah, if you could switch out so he can sit up here. This is all on camera, and so if he wants to speak to the drawings, we have to close. Yes, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you for receiving our letter. I'm Mike Gazzoni, the neighbor across the street at 2533 Mesa School Lane. And we're familiar with the parcel, we're familiar with the applicant, and we're also familiar with this long row of fully grown avocado trees. I know this is the design process, but as you consider this, I don't know that I would even be able to see this project change from my house because I'd be looking through some fully grown avocado trees. And they're pretty significant avocado trees along Mesa School Lane. And the other part that I know you'll see it on the plans, but the slope from Mesa School Lane is downhill to the present structure. So you have a slope downhill, which is further shielded by these fully grown avocado trees. So we live in a small house across the street, but we're in favor of the project. We think it's a nice parcel, a nice project, and that's my comment. I'm certainly available for any questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak to this project? Katie, did we get any other?
No, just that one written public comment.
Thank you. Okay, then the chair is going to close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Who has questions?
I do.
Yes, Lisa.
Can you tell us what roofing material you plan to use?
Currently, it's a black asphalt roof. It's a Cape Cod style, so it's a shingle type of a roof. We would plan to use something similar to that. It's a type A, Class A material.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? I do have some questions. I went out to the site, and there is a house that sits down here, I think.
That's right.
So is there a shared driveway to that house?
There's an easement right here, yes.
Okay.
This is the easement for the
And I'm
house.
sorry, you're not the drafter of these drawings, right? No?
I'm not, no.
Okay.
But I'm-
One of the things your person is going to need to put on these drawings is to show that easement.
Okay.
And to show how this driveway works.
Okay.
This drawing doesn't quite tell me what I saw out there. So that's going to be fairly important as you move through the process.
Okay.
And to be clear on this sheet where the addition is. That graphic is very confusing. Okay? So hopefully he will be watching this, or you'll be able to
I will pass that on.
convey that information to him. So this is the first floor plan, right?
That's right.
So it should say first floor plan on it. And what I saw on the other sheet is there is an overhang out here with a porch, correct?
Yes.
That's how I read it. Okay, so that's the porch. This is the set of doors. There's 3 windows here, set of doors, that's shown on the elevation. And are you changing, in the description, there was something about changing windows out. Are you changing any windows out here?
No, we're actually completing a current permitted remodel in
Uh-huh.
which the windows were already changed out.
Okay, yeah, I saw stickers on this one, so I'm going, okay, somewhere they were moving things along. Okay, and that's being done in a separate.
Yeah, those will all be new windows and the
Okay.
everything else is going to.
All right, gotcha. Okay, and then your description says the siding will match what you've done on the other part of the house.
Yep.
And then you really have this cute little balcony out here. That's not changing. What I couldn't tell, we only look at this from the street. We don't walk onto people's property. So I couldn't tell, do you have a light at, where is it? This,
At the door.
at the door. Is there a
Yes,
light
there
there? Okay, that should show on these drawings.
Okay.
And if you're proposing any new lighting on your addition here, that should show in these drawings.
Okay.
What, are these going to be solid doors? Are these going to be French doors, glass in them? Do you know?
I believe we're looking at French doors with
Okay.
with lights.
Then you're drafter should show that on this set of drawings. Yeah, yeah, what the doors look, like this, if that's what it looks like, or if they have broken light, or,
I think he was unclear on what was required for the initial design review. We'll make sure we get
yeah,
this on.
when you come back, you're going to need to have that information on the drawings.
Okay.
Okay, and the same with the vent, are they horizontal, vertical, what does that really look like? This is the attic vent up here. Okay, and then, as I'm reading this drawing, this little porch element has a horizontal structural member tying in the post, a beam and a post here, so that's clear through. So that's not wood siding, that's the wood siding at the other part of the house, correct?
Well, I think we would make that a soffit, actually.
Oh, so you're going to make this a soffit, so this is actually going to get enclosed.
That'll be enclosed.
It reads, the way this is drawn, it reads like it's open.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
It should be a closed soffit.
Okay, and then the roof material is the same as the house now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anybody else have questions? Are you proposing any major landscaping changes?
No, we weren't planning on changing the slope or.
Anything out where the new footprint is? You're not going to change anything around here? You're obviously doing some soil work here, correct?
Yeah, we do have a soils report that'll be part of the final submission, and we'll make sure that the drainages and everything is taken care of.
Okay, so this is being lifted up a little bit to get this to be flat? Is that
Yes,
what's going
yeah,
on?
we're going to do a slab right
Slab
here.
on grade?
Yeah, slab.
And the avocado trees the neighbor was talking about, that's these up here?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay, other questions? If not, then let's go to comments. The applicant, I'm sure, is seeking any comments for things that we need to have them do before they return for request for project design approval.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd say the direction you're going in the remodel is really nice. The only weakness is the drafting material needs to be a little more complete.
We'll work through that.
And a little more information for us to get a better handle of what you're doing. But as far as the direction you're going, I like the direction. I think it's going to be a cute remodel.
No, thank you. We appreciate that. We tried to keep the original character of the house and make it as unobtrusive as possible. Thank you.
Succeeded.
Other comments? Lisa?
I agree with Brian. Did we discuss landscaping? I'm sorry to go back.
We asked, and they're not thinking about doing it, but do you think we need to talk about landscaping?
So much, it's
Okay.
all right. What do you think, Robert?
Unless they're proposing major landscaping, I don't think it's necessary. The one thing I did notice, you have a door coming out of the house here in your new addition, and not really showing where that goes to. So obviously, you're probably going to make a little pathway or something out there, but I don't think it warrants requiring a detailed landscape plan.
Yeah, it's such a
I'm
small
assuming that's a
front
concrete
lot.
slab of some sort under the porch, correct?
That would be part of the slab that we would do, yes. One of the reasons we're doing a slab is because the lot does slope, and we wanted to bring the door level down to the slope level as it was.
I give it positive comments. I think it.
I agree.
Anybody else? One last question. Are you going to change the color of the house? Or
No.
So it's kind of what you...
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, the color of the house that you saw, the yellow is actually just, that's the color of the hardy
Hardy
material
board.
that we put on it, but it will be white and green, which, that's not what it looks like from the front right now.
So when you come back, one of the requirements when you come back is to come back with a color board
Okay.
showing what all the colors are, roof, siding, et cetera.
Okay.
Okay, other comments?
I think it's going to be a nice addition as well. And the windows that you're adding to the house, are those going to be the same as the new windows that you're putting in? The same type of?
We would plan to use the
Brand,
same
same
brand
style
and
and
type and the same energy qualities to them. We'd want everything to match, so
Right.
we try to use
So
the
that's
same
just another thing to make sure that that's
We have a window and
put
door
in
sketch
there,
here.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. With that, is anyone able to make a motion?
Sure, I can make that motion, I
Okay.
think. So I think the board all like to give this project positive comments. I think you do need to show your driveway easement and also what that, if you're going to be changing the materials of that. When you come back, have a color board, show where lights are going to be, an example of windows and doors. But other than that, I think it's very acceptable.
Thank you
Is
very
it
much.
coming back to the full board or consent?
Probably back to full board.
Okay, so the motion is to come back to the full board. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Is there other comments to the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Okay.
Thank you
can
very
go
much.
back and do your additional work. Thank you. Okay.
Do you want to take it? Do you want to take
Minutes
this
ahead.
extra?
Does anybody need to take a break? No?
Yeah, you can take the extra sheets if you'd like, otherwise I'll recycle them.
Oh, okay, yeah, we might as well.
I'll keep the photos, but you can take them.
Okay, thank you.
What's that?
I have a number of public
Yeah, I know.
comments. Do you want to take a break?
Yeah, I think we will. Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break. I would hope that we've had a number of letters show up for the next item, and we got another one. So I'm right. So I'm going to recess till 5 o'clock. But let's take that opportunity to review the other letters that have just come in. Thank you. All right. The chair will reconvene the Monday, September 17th, 2018 Single Family Design Board. We're on item number 5, 958 Arbolado Road. This is a new item for a public hearing. Project still requires environmental assessment, so it's here for comments only. And I will read into the record the project description as proposed. It's a proposal for additions and alterations to an existing 3,166 square foot, 2-story single residential unit with a 451 square foot attached 2-car garage and 170 square foot storage area. Proposed project includes 286 square foot second story addition and an interior remodel. The proposed total of 4,073 square feet of development on a 29,858 square foot lot located in the Hillside Design District is 85% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio. If you'll introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Cottrell, architect.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Since this is a new application, would you please review what you're doing, please?
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, the lot is 0.69 acres, almost 3/4 of an acre. It is tucked up off Arbolado. It's not visible from the road. It's a unique lot. The driveway splits off. I've got some color versions of the photo. This is the approach. So this is from Arbolado. You have 3 driveways that split off to 3 different houses. Then you have a long drive up to the actual house. So it's set quite back from the street. Here we have Arbolado. That's the driveway entrance. And then that's the property. And I brought a site plan showing these 3 houses because some of the letters have come from neighbors right here. So I just wanted you to know where those are from. This is that blown-up site plan. So just to give you some distances to our addition, and the existing footprints of the adjacent parcels. We've got 93, 80, and 131 feet away from the addition. The addition is an infill of an existing deck. So we've got a large deck above the existing master suite. I'll show you that in the plan. And what we're doing is just carving away that deck and adding a 4th bedroom. It turns out that the house was very popular with the grandkids, and so they can't have both sets of grandkids come right now. So having the 4th bedroom would allow that to happen. So there's no change to the ground floor footprint. Right now we've got entry, a stair that goes up. There's the master bedroom. That's got a wraparound Ipe deck right there that I'll show you in photos in a second. And then above that is our addition. This is existing. There's an existing trellis over this second floor deck right now. That's basically what we'll be taking off, and this is a good reference in the photos because you can see that it's a gray steel trellis. That's the volume of what we'll be adding. Okay, we've got side-by-side existing and proposed. Okay, existing on this side, the red is that trellis that we're taking off. And we're proposing a Ipe wrapped master or additional bedroom. It's got doors to the south and one window to the east. We can maybe look at the operation of that. Maybe we'd split that up. But there are no windows proposed looking back up the hill. It is 286 square feet. It's got let me go back to the plan. So we're keeping a sliver of that second floor deck. Let's see, what is the plan for this? Out of order here. Okay. There's that bedroom. It's got a closet on the east side. There's that window A. The slider would pocket into the side, and then it's got a little portion of that deck remaining. And we're leaving a little notch back so this stair can have some glass still and some light from that side. This is internal, so it's not affecting the exterior, but we are creating 2 distinct bedrooms over here. Before, this was like a flex room, so we just made it a full bedroom, so it's a true 4-bedroom. There's an existing bathroom up here. We're just adding a shower. The window doesn't change. So in elevation, just to go back to look at this side, the existing elevation has a step up in, pardon me, there we go. So we're looking back at that side. So we've got a stucco wall, and what we're proposing is leaving that front stucco and just adding that piece of Ipe. And then the master bathroom behind is already this upper raised chunk of stucco. So that would stay, the front would stay, the railing stays. We're just adding that volume right there and to tie into the rest of the Ipe and the property. That's what I've got, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? That's it?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Before we go to questions of the board and comments, I have one public speaker. I have several letters which we'll discuss. But let's go to our speakers. Karen Craig, you'll come forward, please. Hi. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Thanks for your time. I'm Karen Craig, C-A-R-I-N. Wasn't prepared to do this. Craig, C-R-A-I-G. I live directly behind the 958 Arbolado.
Can I stop you just for a second, just so we kind of know where you are? So there's the site, there's the house. There's another one over there. And this is Arbolado down here. That's the driveway. So
I'm right here.
You're right there. So you live right
Yes.
there. Okay, thank you. Okay.
And you've received letters from my neighbors who are out of town. They would be here if they could.
Okay.
But I provided detailed comments for the record and just want to cover points in the interest of time. Here today to address the issues of the neighborhood compatibility with the proposed project. The proposal is a continuation of development at this site, which has been extensive in recent years and has morphed the character of our neighborhood dramatically. This proposed project is inconsistent with the city's single-family resident design guidelines, particularly in the area of the neighborhood compatibility where the objectives are to have appropriate volume and scale, have a size that is not significantly larger than immediate neighborhood, use materials and designs that are compatible with their surroundings, and are sited such as they do not block light and views for other existing homes, and to minimize privacy impacts to surrounding properties. The board's reviews a previous project by the same owners in May 2013. At that time, the proposal was a consent item. Regrettably, I nor my other neighbors did not appeal the decision as we believe the project could be developed consistent with the compatibility of our neighborhood. Our experience in the physical results demonstrates that this could be further from reality. My written comments also include some photos to demonstrate some of that. I'm disappointed in the proposed project as it will be a substantial continuation to impacts of our neighborhood. It appears to exacerbate modern design and aesthetics not consistent with the original house or surrounding area. and seems to make little attempts to conform with the single-family resident design guidelines. Prior,
Can I stop you? You
Yes.
only have 2 minutes.
Okay.
And we've got a lot of this in writing already, so if you could just highlight the things that are really bothering you.
Well, overall, it's been an original proposal with continual additions. Original house had 5 bedrooms. Previous plans I could see had bedrooms, which now they point out are fit rooms, and just the continual addition of a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, instead of the initial presentation to the board would give us and the board, you know, what this owners wanted from the beginning. On top of it, it is quite glaring, bright white, reflective, as continual additions instead of the original proposal, such as encroachments of the some solar panels have been permitted, other are radial panels that they said they would remove, have not removed. I'm not sure if they are permitted or not. In addition, changes to development with landscaping overall. I just would really like support for either the owners and people representing the owners to go back to the drawing board in order to work with the community as something that won't be so disturbing.
Thank you. Now, before you leave, I have some questions, and it's unfortunate that we got this letter just before the meeting. So we're volunteers, so we don't, you know, this is not our job, okay? So we didn't get a chance to look at this letter, but I did glance through most of it. I do have a couple of questions. In the course of the 3 years plus, or whatever the number is, of these folks working in this house, have you had any direct conversations during that time period with these folks?
We have. Not initially. They don't live here.
Okay, but you've had conversations. Okay, that's what I was looking for. And then secondly, I don't know if it was in your letter, it may be in the letter next to you, the people next to you that weren't able to be here today. There's some discussion about new trees being planted.
So the
you know where
original
those are?
landscape architect plans, they don't show any trees along the
So
border.
your house is up here, so where do you think they're planting new trees? This is
they
the
have
site.
they
That's
have
the house.
like fishtail palms planted along here,
Here?
and other larger trees. I don't know the name of them. And
Okay, but you've observed new trees being planted in here?
yes,
Okay, where else?
well, I think they're landscape architects.
So
been
there's been
continual.
trees, you've noticed new trees being planted in here?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially there.
Okay, and at this point, I'm going to assume they're not matured to whatever height they're ultimately going to get to.
Not yet, but
Okay.
we know those can be.
Okay.
Very
And then, let's see if I had one other question of you. The rest of them I'll try to address in my comments, okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to address the board? Katie, we had a bunch of letters that came in, which I think hopefully, did everybody get a chance now to digest them as best you could, given the time frame? We didn't get anything else, right?
If there was something else received, it was after 12 this afternoon, so.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, if there's no one else willing to come forward on this item, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Who has questions?
From the last person talking, it sounds like they're building it piecemeal. And what is that? Is this something that's gone before us before?
Yes, and so Katie, can you share with us? I do remember seeing this project before. There was an allusion or not an allusion, a reference in one of the letters that says this was only before the consent calendar, but my memory was that it did come before the full board at some point.
I don't know. I have not looked up
You'd
the
have to do that
previous
research?
project history.
Yeah, I
No.
believe it was full board. It was my project as well.
Well, it was full board,
Yeah, I believe
correct?
it was,
Yes,
yes.
and I do recall that. Okay.
Well,
Go, I'm sorry.
no. Well, now that it's your project, so could you elaborate what she's saying, or what's built was built, right?
Well, there was the pool was permitted separately, so it may
Okay.
have felt piecemeal, and the construction process was certainly slow. So I'm sure as a neighbor, it
Well, that's
felt
what was
very
happening.
piecemeal. Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Other questions? I have a series. So first of all, are there existing skylights and are there new proposed skylights in the roof, in the flat roof element?
There are no proposed in
Are
the
there,
new
are there
addition.
existing ones?
I don't believe there are. No.
Okay, all right. There are existing solar panels, correct?
That's correct.
And
they're on this side.
they're over there. Okay. All right. And do you have, you're not proposing a landscape plan as a part of this application because the application is just for a second floor.
That's correct.
Did we, in fact, approve a landscape plan prior to this?
You did, and I'll have the landscape architect take a look at what's going on over here. I don't know of any additional plantings.
All right. And then, I guess I wasn't paying attention, is this, is this a new staircase?
No, that's existing.
Okay, it just had a different coloration.
So the brown is Ipe. So
Oh,
it's a
okay,
wood
all
stair.
right. So the EPA doesn't designate new or old.
That's correct. This is just, yeah.
Okay, and this EPA is proud of the surface of that stucco?
That's correct.
By that dimension?
That's correct.
Down here, okay. And the EPA color is, do we know?
Yeah, it's just a natural stain. The front gate has got a, if we could get a further shot.
Is it matching something else on the side?
Yeah, it would be matching everything. So it's just a natural Ipe.
It's this, it's going to be more or less that.
Tighter
color.
gap on the, on the building.
Okay.
And just for reference of where those trees are,
Yeah.
this is the view from the bottom part of our second story. Sorry. Up towards, sorry.
So it's from your side looking up?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, it's looking up at this. Okay. So that's
And what am I looking at right there?
that is the neighbors.
So that's a balcony railing?
Yeah, it's a balcony with a kind of a steel trellis and a.
Okay, so that's a balcony railing, and that's the surface of that house above there. These trees are stanchions to hold up trees are on your property? On the client, on your applicant's property?
I don't know.
Okay, that wall?
I don't know. I believe that's on our property, yes. I'll check on those
Okay,
trees.
all right, thank you. Okay, other questions? Okay, if we have no other questions.
I
then
have
what-
one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Jonathan?
My understanding is we're talking about, and maybe I missed something, but we're talking about adding a fourth bedroom where there is a deck?
Yes.
And we're not talking about approval of the entire house? And
No,
we're not
no.
talking about adding any height to this property? It looks like it's no higher, the elevation is no higher than the rest of the house already existing. Am I reading that correctly?
It appears to be the case, yeah.
Okay.
That's the top of the house.
And we're not changing the color of the house?
Not for
Okay.
this addition, right? This is on the two exposed sides to the outside are Ipe wood color.
3-year Ipe, yeah.
Okay, so really, we need to just talk about the approval of this project, not the entire house that's gone piecemeal before. Is that correct?
In theory, that's correct, yes.
I must be missing something.
Okay. Well, no, and the reason for that, the reason I state that, and Katie will correct me if I'm not
Yeah.
reading this right, is they're here applying for a room addition.
Yes.
On top of this.
Right.
But that allows us to look at everything, including if
Oh.
we felt, for whatever reason,
No,
no?
no, it would be for the addition, not
But,
the.
but if we had, and I'm just, this is the hypothetical now. If we were looking at a room addition on a house in front of us, and it was touching the ground, or it had some effect of the ground, we could discuss landscaping around that immediate addition, could we not?
Sure.
Okay. But we're not going to look at the driveway, we're not going to look at the front gate, we're not going to look at the swimming pool,
No.
we're not going to look at the garage door,
Nor the color of the entire house,
nor the color of the entire house.
nor the solar, because solar is
Let me-
mandated by our governor now.
Yeah, let me get to the solar in a second, but
Okay.
yes, does that make it clear?
Okay.
So there are certain things we can look at.
Okay.
And we might veer off from that, but Katie will be there to pull us back in.
Well, I needed a second cup of coffee to read all this material that came in my
Right, I
email today.
understand.
And I'm just
Okay.
want to see where we're
Now,
focusing.
now, the other thing to remember is this is here for comments only.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll have an opportunity to reread all this information that came to us this afternoon just before the meeting.
Okay.
So I would hope you all do that so that when the applicant returns, we've at least had an opportunity for that. And then I would encourage the neighbors and the public, if you have additional comments, that you please get them into us early. As I said, we're a volunteer board, so a lot of times, these guys, I'm retired, so I get a little more time to do this, but these guys all work, so they're leaving their jobs to get over here by 3 o'clock to get started. So if you can get your information in early, it's really helpful. Okay, that answers your
Well, I have
question?
one more comment. With being bombarded with these letters today, my feeling is if your complaint is important enough, you should be here to present it in person.
Okay, well, that's up to the public.
Okay.
We'll encourage them to do as best we can.
Well, I represent the public on this
Okay.
board.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
There you
So
go.
thank you for the statement.
Okay.
That's important. That's why you're here. Okay. Let's see. Did we finish questions? I guess we
I
did.
have a quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Robert.
The solar panels that you're talking about, there's like an electric solar system as well as this is for heating the pool, is that correct?
That's correct. Those are e-coils, yep.
And is that something that was originally approved with the project?
That came with the pool, so it's a part of the pool.
Okay, so it's part of the pool permit to put heating coils up there? Okay.
Are these skylights or solar panels down here behind your rear
Show it
addition
on.
is going to be? Right here.
Oh, those are first floor skylights. That is in the master shower.
And
Yes.
those are existing?
Those are existing.
That's why I was asking you this
Yes.
question.
And your
First floor.
addition is only, basically only going to be where that shower sits.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
All right.
What is, something's removed.
This was the original house, so this is when we.
Hello, yep, now I'm hearing.
This was the original house. This is during construction.
Okay.
Other questions? Now, let's go to comments. We have comments.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. The overall style of the house is kind of edgy for me for the neighborhood, but it's already been approved and established and it's built, so it's like not much I can say about it. And so I think the room addition is appropriate. I think the heating coils and the solar panels are really very unattractive for the other neighbors to look down on that flat roof and see that. It's almost like they're looking down on a commercial building or a gas station or something. But that's
It's not our
purview. It's not our purview. So I think your room addition is totally appropriate.
So just to be clear for public, the state of California has taken review of solar systems, solar panels, et cetera, out of our hands. We're not allowed to review them. We're not allowed to indicate where they're to be located. We don't get to do any of that. The only thing we can touch upon is if they're in a clear aluminum frame. We've been able to ask for a black frame around them. But just like ADUs and AUDs, the state of California has taken that review out of our hands. We're not allowed to make comments or dictate where they go, how they're configured, whether they're tilted, not tilted, whatever. That's out of the jurisdiction of this review board. The permitting comes under the building department, but they don't have a public review process. So unfortunately, that's not something we're able to deal with. And I do appreciate all of the information we received and the photographs, but at the end of the day, we don't get to say anything about solar panels.
Is that only for electrical solar panels or including solar
That's-
systems for
it's-
pools?
As I understand it, it's the whole thing, but
I'm just
Katie,
curious.
is the solar for the pool the same way?
It would be any solar panels.
Yeah, okay. So anything that absorbs the sun, that whole process has been taken out of local control. So I know I've talked to folks in the community. They're quite concerned about that and other issues that the state has come in and stepped in and taken over our ability to deal with it as a local community. So the only thing I can suggest is you need to talk to your state representatives and ultimately work at getting the law changed. Okay, other comments? As you know, you approved a project right down here at the bottom of the driveway on the other side of Arbolado Road with a standing seam roof and a deck. And we went out and looked at the site, okay? And you all approved that. I didn't. And I didn't because this is exactly the point I made is that this contemporary approach on the Riviera, in my view, is still not compatible with what should be on the Riviera. Now, same can be said for that house. And I was here when that was approved. And probably in hindsight, I don't recall whether I voted against or not. I may have voted against it, but again, I may have been in the minority. It's not an issue, can you see it from the road? There are all kinds of places on the Riviera where you can't see things from the road or from the street because they're either down or up or have huge hedges. The issue is, the reason this board sits is we see it as a community from the city. So a bright white building, and there are a lot of them up there, and not all of them are contemporary. A lot of them have red tile roofs on them, right? So it's our obligation, in my opinion, that this board has an obligation to really look at the compatibility nature of how we're allowing these individual residents one at a time to be inserted into the fabric of that Riviera that we look at. If the drapes were open, we could look right at it. Not right at this side, it's off to the left, but, or to the west. I think we really need to think about it. Every time we touch a house and look at a house on this Riviera, it's like every other neighborhood we look at. We will change the character of the neighborhood, even if it's slightly, by what we ultimately approve. And in some cases, quite frankly, some of this stuff is not compatible, and that's our obligation. And one of the things I'm seeing, our other review boards are being challenged on that very issue because they're not taking the time to deal with neighborhood compatibility. And as you know, there was quite a stir on an application under ABR that was appealed to the city council not too long ago, a few weeks ago, and the city council basically said, no, we agree with the neighborhood. You can't insert a contemporary interpretation of something in a neighborhood that it will not be compatible with. And so I think we need to be very careful about what we do. But unfortunately, as my colleague on the right has already said, the deed is done. And we're now here being asked to approve a relatively small piece of square footage within the existing framework of an existing size, scale, and bulk. It falls well within our guideline of 85%. And as we saw earlier in this evening, we really struggled with size of homes. We had one that had come back to us several times. We finally approved it today, but only after we really worked at getting the applicant to reduce it below 85%. And that's been the tool in our toolkit that allows us at least some ability to keep these homes small. So now they're right at 85%. And I would suspect if they attempt to come to us again with some other additional approval, that's going to be a big question because any added square footage is going to move it above 85%. So I would hope your client reads loud and clear that if this board approves today's, ultimately approve, we're not doing that today, but ultimately approves this addition, in my view, that's it. Don't come back. Yeah, you can wait until a few of us are off this board and you can try somebody else. But that's how it goes. And it will change. I mean, you know, the board changed, the attitudes of boards changes over the years. Different personalities sit here. They have different viewpoints. But applicants need to deal with who's sitting here at the time they come with their projects. So I'm not happy, but I also believe that fair is fair, and ultimately we may have to proceed as the applicant is presented. I would just encourage you to open the dialogue back with your neighbors. As you can see, we've got piles of paper here. They're not happy. As we said, we don't have control over the whole solar roof thing. Any effort that your owner can make to work with the applicants above them would be most appreciated by the community. Not sure they care what this board thinks, but I think the community will care. And I think the message should be loud and clear, even though Santa Barbara doesn't have purview over these solar panels, they do have an impact, and they're going to have a big impact as they continue to grow on the Riviera. And just so you all know, the new state law says that new construction, new homes, will be required to have solar panels. So at that point, it's not a either or, it is. So, and again, we won't have purview when those projects come before us.
That may change.
That might change, depends.
Most likely it will.
When the,
We can force
but
them.
it's the state, not us,
We can force them to be subterranean.
or whatever. Anyway, those are my comments. Are there other comments? If there are no other comments, then the chair would look for a motion. This is here for comments only. Part of your motion should indicate whether or not the applicant should return to the full board or to the consent calendar.
Well, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion that the board will make positive comments of the addition. We feel that it's consistent with the overall style of the house, and that it is below 85% of the FAR. However, the board does feel uncomfortable with the overall style of the house as not being completely compatible with the neighborhood, but that's here nor there.
Okay. That's the motion on the floor?
That's the motion.
Okay, is there a second to that
I'll
motion?
second it.
Okay. Is there further discussion of the motion? I will be voting no out of principle. Okay. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. Abstentions? So carried. Okay, we'll see you back here.
My house never would have been approved. I'm on the Riviera.
Okay, where are we at time-wise?
Come out. We should come out.
5:30. We're right.
Right on time?
And mine.
Oh, right on time. Okay, 13:35. Before you leave, you need to read into the record why you're recusing yourself, please.
I am recusing myself on the upcoming project because the client before us has been retained for a different project.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, so we're here, item number 6, 1335 Mission Ridge Road. You'll introduce yourselves, please.
Mark Morando, agent for the owner.
I go with Feeney, the owner.
Welcome. This is a new project, so I will read into the record the description provided. This is a proposal to permit as-built additions and alterations to an existing 6,493 square foot, 3-level single residential unit and attached 2-car carport. The unpermitted work includes 28 square feet of additions, bay windows, a fireplace, arched stone wall, planter walls, and stone benches within the public right-of-way. Proposed total of 6,821 square feet of development on a 17,043 square foot lot located in the Hillside Design District is 155% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio. This project will address violations in enforcement case enforcement case 2018-00616. Staff hearing officer review is requested for zoning modifications to allow encroachments into the front and interior setbacks. The project also requires a public works encroachment permit for work in the public right-of-way. This is here for comments only. Project requires staff hearing officer review. If you'll share with us what you're doing, please.
Well, fundamentally, we're legalizing the entire property. Right now, we're basically focusing on the house. All of these aspects that you're looking at today were approved in 2006 and 2008 here at the Architectural Board of Review. The permits expired, and therefore we're back at the board. This is some of the previous architect and previous designers had some of the additions and permits that were actually finalized, and in the files they showed that they weren't, and they were trying to approve them within the process, and through the process of approving them at the design review board at the architectural board, which it was put into the ABR because of the public works encroachment permits. So if you look at the site plan here, this is one of only two houses. There was the Franceschi house across the street and this house back in the late 1800s that were up here. And the front property line runs right at the front of the building, literally within about 18 inches here, and it almost touches right here. So it didn't show up, but there's a bay window right here, this bay window, and then there's a bay window right here. I don't know how that layer got turned off, but it's on all the other sheets. And this wall right here was approved in 1981 with an encroachment permit, and it's like a 5-foot high wall. And as Mission Ridge drops down precipitously on each side of the road and comes up Public Works, we have to make a formal application with them, but in the past they had a Public Works of PBW 06 where it wasn't so much of an issue at the time because of this wall's existing. And if they ever do extend the road, then they'll just scrape the improvements. There is a 30-foot setback, and I'm just showing a 25 because that's what all the other plans showed. And we'll just have to have the surveyor do the front half of the lot to get the 5-foot reduction. And if you look at the house, these are kind of superimposed everything on top where the hatch portions are within. These are areas of addition within the setback. These are like, this is actual bay window, and this is a bay window. This one adds floor area, this one doesn't. There's a couple little wrought iron balconies out here that are within the setback as well. There's an addition on the lower floor, and then the board also approved this wall and this trellis down here. There is a stairway, so there's a deck that comes out right here, and then a stairway that leads down. It's an existing deck. And this stairway received a modification for the encroachment, as well as all of these encroachments here in the front setback, and everything else was basically infill inside the house for second floor, except on the top floor. The top floor had like a little 17 square foot closet addition that was unpermitted. It went to the ABR. Everything's been engineered. Building permits are ready to be pulled, and then they just expired. So you want to move into the existing basement floor plan. I don't know why they put the walls at all these weird angles when they originally built it, but these are the original walls, and there's a stairway up on this side. And so there's been a little addition here and an infill here and here, so you can see it on this. And then this is a covered porch with the balcony across the top. This element was, in order for this to be living area, it had to be connected to the main structure. So this was an addition that was approved along with the sunroom and some other aspects upstairs. That's the first floor. So the second floor is the main floor that you come in off the street. This is the existing floor plan. These are the bay windows, and you can see that this is the property line. So there's a little area that requires a front yard modification, a little area that requires the public works encroachment permits on both of these. This is a proposed floor plan. So these are the bay windows. A door gets removed here. Over here, this was like a vestibule where you walked in, it was just empty. And since it's been enclosed, this little portion for a toilet, that's an addition in the front setback. And then this bay window. And then this is the kitchen bay window. And there's another one here that's just beyond the 25. And this is the little area of the deck stairs that was permitted with the mod in 08 that expired. So I went through all the archives and did all the research in the planning file, the street file, and the architectural archives to try to figure out what was approved, what wasn't, and then I just delineated and added on to like Brian's original plans. So this is the upper floor. This shaded area is what was permitted with a permit back in the 80s. And then this is the little addition to the closet right here on the back side. This is the front and this is the back. And then these little balcony extensions were actually required or requested by the ABR at the time to, and then on the very top floor is the tower. And since the tower exceeds 30 feet, there's a floor, one portion of it is like covered by the, covers the bathroom ceiling soffit, but the floor supposedly is supposed to be taken out of here and just attic access. And this is the roof plan. So these are the elevations, and I tried to kind of point to everything and show what was permitted and what's being proposed. I think the only thing on the tower that's above is this little wind vane. This is kind of showing as the corner of that stairway where the line cuts through it. It kind of hits it at an oblique angle. And I put the front property line on here. We can talk about the right-of-way encroachments at any time. Since everything here, is here, it can be seen by just viewing the house or through the photos. And then these are sections through the building. These are basically what Brian had created. And then this is the trellis in the yard that was permitted back in 2010. And there was a bunch of revisions, and he came back to the board for review after finals, and about 5 revisions where we pulled on it through the building department, and then that expired as well. And this is actually the same. So.
Okay.
Do you have any?
I have several questions, but do you have
Sure.
anything else to proceed?
No, not right now. I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. Before we go to questions, comments from the board, we received letters and we have several speakers. Let's see. Did everyone get a chance to read the letters that were submitted this afternoon?
Only
two letters, right?
two small, short ones.
2 short ones, okay. So has everybody had a chance to look at those? Okay. All right. I have several speakers. You're Mr. Peeney, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, you get to speak as part of your presentation. So do you want to do that right now?
I can, or I'll let the other speakers speak, and maybe I can address some of the issues in my
Okay.
speech. Okay?
Okay. Tia Rosendale? Are you part of the applicant's representative? Then if you'll come up, please. Sit up here. And then Wolfgang Grell?
Yes.
Yes, if you'll come forward, please. You'll use that microphone, please.
Thank you.
If you have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you'll state your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Wolfgang Grahl. The last name spells G-R-A-H-L. I'm a resident and neighbor on Mission Ridge. I walk daily past the property, and I'm actually glad to see that improvements are planned and work seems to be going on or planned. And I think it's a positive thing for the neighborhood. I think it's a very beautiful house. It fits in with the neighborhood. It looks like it belongs to the Riviera, and I like to see it finished, the deck, the work that needs to be done so it becomes a nice part of the area. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you. Roswell Chivas? Chivas, yes. If you'll come forward, please. If I can have you return to your seat so he can use this chair to speak, please.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Two quick administrative points, please.
Your name for the record, please.
Roswell Chivas. I'm the resident at 1237 Vizcaína Road, approximately 2 houses below Mr. Peeney's house. I also submitted a rather lengthy presentation on the previous house. We had to take some time to develop that presentation. We only got the notice less than a week before this meeting. So to have us prepare all those photographs and put all that stuff together was not easy. To have the public turn around and tell us we should have spoken here when we did all of that paperwork, shame on you. All right, with regards to this house, we think what Mr. Peeney is doing is an outstanding job. It's going to transform this house into a Mediterranean look and feel. It's something we would very much like to have on the Riviera. It is the kind of house I think the city wants to have in general. It has arbors, it has colonnades, it has a tremendous look to it, and it's just now coming together, frankly. Our only prayer in this is that this house sits on the south side of Mission Ridge Road, bounded on the east by Arbolado and on the west by San Carlos. That particular stretch of road, approximately 1.5 miles, 2 miles long, has no sidewalk and has become extremely dangerous because of the fact that the landscaping along the south edge has grown to such a height that you cannot see around the corners. We have more blind corners now, and the most dangerous one of all, between 1435 and 1425 Mission Ridge Road, needs to be cut down and somehow improved so that people can walk on that section of the road. It is, as I say, therefore, our prayer simply that the board consider at some point in time how, when we can put a sidewalk of minimal size, 3 feet. We don't expect something to be ADA approved because, frankly, people in wheelchairs and so forth don't live on the Riviera. It's someplace you move from the Riviera in those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaker slip I have is Stu Carroll. Okay, and if you could speak into that microphone and give us your name for the record.
My name is Stuart Carroll. I live across the street from Dario. I have for the past 38 years. 38 years ago, he came to me and was starting a remodel of his house. Since that time, the remodel has never been completed. There's always incompleted. It's been a treacherous time, and I hope that something like can be done in order to accommodate this. But I have 2 things that I would like to address as far as what they're asking for. One of them is the square footage that they're asking to add on. Now, as I understand it, their square footage is already overdone what it's supposed to be. Is that correct?
I'll answer that when we get to our comments.
Okay.
But go ahead.
And if you put 1 more square foot on there, that just means more people coming to this place. Now, he has, as I can see, at least 2 and maybe 3 separate entities in there as apartments. His son and his daughter-in-law and his grandson live there. Good kids, neat kids. Somebody else does, and Dario lives there now. They have 6 vehicles that they park out in front of this place, and there's only 3 spots, and 2 of them, the trucks that they park in, are illegally parked because the bumpers go beyond their curb line. Now, I would like to see that addressed too, but as far as the square footage is concerned, they should be taking square feet away from the facility instead of adding on. Every time you put another square foot on, Dario has got a reputation. If you make a larger entity there, you're going to have more people. And more people mean more cars and everything. So we, as a neighbor, I've polled about 6 of our neighbors, and we all feel as though we've got to do something to stop this. It's a tenement house as it is now. There are times when people come, he rents rooms from the hotel overflow down at the hotel, motel on the beach up to the house. This happened many times.
Okay.
And
Just thing I asked was it.
let's see what
If
else.
you could wrap up, if your 2 minutes are up.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's bring it back to the board for questions. The applicant can address us once we get through some of this initial work. Katie, I've got a few questions. This came to us because of zoning violations or because the applicant requested?
The applicant submitted an application, and the project addresses violations that are in an enforcement case.
And at some point, I'm going to walk back through all of this so we can really clearly understand the zoning the zoning modifications we're supposed to be looking at and any violations that we're supposed to be looking at, because there are things I detect in here that are zoning violations, et cetera, but not under our purview.
Yeah, I would have you look at the as-built alterations that are part of the design.
So we're going to walk through that in some detail here in a few minutes. Just so it came to us because the applicant requested, not because it was.
I'm not sure why the applicant was submitted.
All right,
Maybe
so
It's an enforcement case.
okay, so and then the other question I have with regards to how one uses a property in terms of additional perceived units in a single-family home, that's not under our purview, correct?
That's correct.
And does that come under anyone's purview within the city
Part of
process?
the zoning.
It's part of the
ordinance.
zoning, and that would show up in a zoning report?
Well, it's zoned as single-family residential, so it's only permitted to be a single residential unit. We can't limit or dictate the number of people that live in that unit.
And as I understand it in my discussions with the city attorney, under the current law, those numbers of people can live there. They don't necessarily have to be relatives, et cetera, correct?
Yeah, we don't regulate.
That's not regulated by our board or anybody else within the city of Santa Barbara, okay? Do we regulate the number of cars that can be parked on a site? Is that a zoning issue?
We are required by the ordinance to provide 2 covered parking spaces. No, if they were parking
Additional
in the street, you could contact the police department or.
That's a function of police enforcement and the public right-of-way, which is not under the purview of this board, correct?
Correct. If they were parking, for example, in the driveway, that's prohibited. You could file a complaint, and that would be something we could enforce upon through the zoning enforcement division. But we can't say you can have this many cars or not. So.
And as mentioned by the presenter a few moments ago, some of these things were reviewed and permitted under the previous ABR process before this board existed.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those, I'm going to try to go back and figure out which ones are which, were already approved but weren't done and fell out of the permit period.
Yes, the permit's expired.
The permit's expired. Okay, and we'll try to figure out which one of those are as we go through the process. Okay, I have other specific questions, but let's go to board members who have individual questions. Yes.
I notice a lot of dissimilar railing types on the current building. I'm wondering if you're going to plan to make those consistent.
There's 2 types, there's wrought iron, and then you'll have the balustrade, the Mediterranean balustrades, which are in a promenade. What I've done over the years is I've been able to collect various artifacts from the city at auctions. And I bought all the light posts from APS and from Loma Media, the old fluted copper columns, and I've incorporated those into a promenade that circles the bottom of the property.
That's not really what I'm talking about. It's all the different wrought iron. There's wrought iron, there's some picket, and the wrought iron's all dissimilar as well.
The wrought iron is the same. The pickets are just there temporarily.
But the wrought iron, there looks like 2 or 3, like 3 different kinds. Is it? I mean, I don't know. It's probably picky, but looks inconsistent to me, all those different types. I'm just wondering if you were planning, Mark, to make that
Most of the
a
wrought iron
consistent
is similar,
detail.
except for the one in the front, and it's curved because of the existing stairs that were there. You had to curve it so it wouldn't obstruct hit anybody's on the head when they're walking up the stairs.
Are there any more sets of photographs?
Yes,
I could
I
see.
have some more
Well, there's just so many separate materials. I'm just curious if you plan on unifying the detailed materials to try and make some continuity.
At this point, no. We were just proposing what is existing is what is proposed.
Other questions?
Here you go.
Yeah, I guess I have one, and maybe I'm misreading this. Are we talking about doubling the size of the residential space? Because I see here 6,493 square feet, and then the proposed development of 6,821. Now, what's the increment?
What we're looking at is there's 328 square feet of unpermitted work.
Okay.
That's all we're looking at.
That's all we're looking at.
That's on one floor,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. The rest of the house is existing at 6,000.
Okay, I
whatever it
just
is.
wanted to make sure I
So
was-
that's done.
Okay.
Okay. So the only question that we have is whether we're going to approve this as-built condition of 328 square feet,
Okay.
or
5% of it.
or some other, or have them take the whole thing out. That's a decision
Okay.
that
Right.
would
Thank
be,
you.
but the remaining square footage is already permitted and built and done. Okay, so we don't have purview over that. Okay. Other questions?
And that black or the dark that you have shaded is what, that 300 and...
Well, let's go through, that was part of my question. I'm
Those
going
are-
to walk you through now, so we clearly understand what we're supposed to be looking at as a board versus what we're not supposed to be looking at. Okay, and I'm going to use a red pencil to make it clear. So,
You might want to just go to the floor plan.
can
It's
we,
easier.
well, let me start with the site plan. So, are we looking at three bay windows? Do we have to make a decision on
Right,
those?
those are
Okay.
three-bay windows.
So, Katie, this is what they have to get a modification for?
Correct, and they had originally
Mark
received
wants
them
to-
and they expired in
Okay,
2008.
so in essence, if you're like most applicants, you're going to be looking for positive comments about whether we support leaving those as they are,
Correct.
correct? Okay, over here on this elevation, what are we looking at?
You're looking at this bay window with the fireplace, which is that line, yes.
Okay.
And then this little bay window that
Okay.
didn't show up.
There
Those
is,
two
yes,
are barely, the wall itself is within the front setback, and then the bays are in the right-of-way. So we
Okay.
need comments as far as what is existing in the right-of-way as
Okay.
well, which is, there's a little rock arch wall right here, we can take a look at it in a photograph.
I saw it from the
Yeah.
street. So are we have to make a
That's-
comment
That's
on,
the bay window right there.
okay, do we have to make a comment on this?
Correct, the aspects that are in the public
All right.
right-of-way
And
require
this
review
too?
by. Yes, that's a little planter about this
Okay.
high.
All right, and then there's a fountain in here somewhere?
The fountain sits inside here.
Do we have to make a comment on that? No?
That's not in the setback.
Actually,
It's not in the
well,
setback.
everything's in the setback. Everything's within this 25-foot
So
front setback.
so are we commenting on that, or was that
Yes,
permitted and built with approval?
Um,
We know.
Again, they were,
Setback.
well, it's in, the setback is here, the 25
Setback is
foot.
here. So what I'm trying to
So the whole front
determine,
lot line. It was approved and it expired, so yes.
okay, so there's a fountain here we have to look at. And Katie, there is a 25 square foot rule for water features within the front yard setback. Do we know what the size of this guy is? No?
What the size of that is?
The
Is it-
fountain.
Is it indicated on the plans? I don't know what the
I
size
drew
is.
it to scale, so I'll have
Okay,
to look
well,
at
anyway,
it.
okay, so that's one of the things we may look at. What about this wall? Are we supposed to be looking at
That
that?
wall already received a Public Works encroachment permit.
So we don't have to, this board doesn't have to address that? Okay.
No, it's
right.
permitted.
Okay, and you're not changing any driveway surface here? That's
No.
not under the purview? That's not as part of this zoning
Correct.
violation? Okay. Standing on the street here on Friday, I noticed work being done right down in here. There was a compactor machine, handheld machine right in here. There's something in here, and it's not on this drawing.
There's a bunch of work down
Here.
here, which is not shown. I don't know what's up in
Okay,
there.
we're going to need to see that. And if that appears to be new because it appeared to be under construction while I was standing there on Friday, I want to see that. There also appears to be new stucco and a window at the bottom floor down here. Is that under our purview?
Yes, that
Okay,
that
so
was,
we're looking at that.
that is right here. I can find that.
Okay. Now, let's move around this way. So are we looking at this
Yes.
element here?
Yes,
So all this dark stuff
correct.
is not for a modification, it's just for our review and approval, correct?
Right.
Okay, so it's this elevation.
That's an uncovered balcony underneath.
Okay, so
and a
that's what
balcony
we're
above.
looking at as part of this application.
Correct.
We're not looking at these internal changes.
Well, you
Those-
are because they technically require mod and they're,
Right,
they're
but
infill.
but for the purposes of the staff hearing officer, she's going to make that determination.
Right.
From the staff hearing officer's part of the world, that's what she looks at. What she looks to us for is making comments
On the
on the
exterior.
exterior
Correct.
stuff. So I'm trying to do this for you. So for our purposes, we can typically kind of ignore this because it's inside the house. The staff hearing officer is going to want to see our comments on the stuff that I'm circling in red, okay? That's not permitted now, correct? This
That's
little
a
black.
first floor addition.
Okay, and we have to look at the outside of that. So we're going to be looking at that. We're going to be looking at that. What is this again? This,
I would
that
have to
on the
go.
other
It's
floor?
probably, yeah, it's the second floor.
okay, so that's also, we're looking also look at that, okay? Now, there is a trellis that starts over here somewhere and
Correct.
appears to go, is that permitted? That's
No.
not under our purview?
It is, but I haven't been able to draw it because I don't
Okay,
have.
so we have to look at that,
Correct.
okay? That appears to be under construction, at least at that end. That's the only part I can see from the street, okay? There is other site work in here, landscape work. Are we required to look at that as part of the modification on any of these
Not as part of the
setbacks?
modification, but it is part of the landscape plan that'll be coming in.
Okay.
The reason why I didn't draw all this
So you're-
stuff
you're-
here.
Okay, so you're going to
is-
propose a landscape plan that's
Correct.
coming? Okay, so
And
that is-
Schwimp and everything.
That hasn't got here, okay. And do you know what are you storm 3 or 2? You know?
Tier 3, yes.
Tier 3, okay, and that's coming.
Correct.
All right, and then this trellis we're supposed to look at?
Correct. It was approved and then expired.
Okay, and is this a retaining wall?
It's a flat wall.
Okay, but-
This is a retaining wall.
Okay, so are we supposed to be looking at this? This is part of this
Correct.
review? So
You're
all of
basically
these,
looking at everything in the yard,
okay, so all of this stuff,
except this terrace and this deck, and that's the mod. So all this
has already been
is like existing.
existing. So
And
we're
you're
looking,
at this right here,
okay,
basically.
so we're
that.
kind of looking at a line
Correct.
this way,
Right.
okay? All of that stuff is there. We're done. We don't have to look at this, we're not looking at that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so then let's walk around the elevations. So let's see, let's start down here. Okay, so this is the APS side of the house, so we're going to look at that fountain. We're going to look at that bay window,
Yep.
or actually this whole element with the fireplace.
Right.
So we're looking at that.
That's for Public Works. That's for Public Works, this bay.
This bay window, okay, that's for the modification.
And this is kind of showing the wall as it wraps around that's
Okay.
already approved.
All right, and we're not looking at that? Yes. No, we're not looking at that. That's done.
Correct.
Okay. Then we're not looking at anything here. We're looking at that.
That's that bay window,
That's that bay window.
or the bay on the first
Okay.
floor.
Are we looking at anything on the tower?
No,
Okay.
no wind vane,
The wind vane, we have to say yes or no?
I guess.
Okay. All right. We're not looking at any of that stuff. We're not looking at any of this stuff. We're not looking at any of this side, correct?
That is as built,
Do we have to look at that?
yes.
Okay, where is that in reference to the plan?
It's, if you were standing,
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
But where is it on the plan? Is that it right there?
it's
It's that wall, right?
actually, yeah, in here,
Okay, so we have to look at that. Okay.
right.
So we're going to be looking at that. All right, let's go up here. This is the south elevation towards the city. So we're looking at this, correct?
This is the tower element, right?
So we're looking at that corner.
It's round, it just comes up to a
Right,
point.
no, I understand. And then that,
This window,
that window, we're looking at,
these three arches,
and this up here,
and
correct?
this is what's behind, yeah.
So this whole element we're looking at, that's what we have to make
Correct.
comments on. We don't have to make comments on that. Are we making comments on this? No? Yes?
This is underneath the deck.
Do we make comments on that? That part of the, is that part of this stuff over here? These two?
Go back to the first floor. This one here. Yeah, right here. So that little piece, yes. That is,
And this piece?
those are the stone arches over the windows.
Okay, let's relate that to the elevation. So that's this guy.
Right.
So we're looking at that. We have to make comments about that.
That's under the deck.
Right. And let's see, what am I missing here? So this piece, that right there is that right there?
That's all these arch columns.
Well, I know that, those are the arches. Those are 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then there's something here. So I'm looking at this. So we have to look at this?
Correct, yeah,
Okay,
everything
so we're
along that
okay, on the
line.
bottom, we're not looking at this top window, correct? We're just
No,
looking at the bottom
no.
stuff. Okay. All right, so we're basically looking at that, and
Correct.
this, and that, and over here.
That's the deck, and then that would be the encroachment and the setback
Okay, and we have to look at this right here,
for our interior yard mod.
okay? And the bay windows that are up here don't show in this sketch, right? They're up here somewhere? If I look straight back? Or are they hidden, right?
It's hidden on that elevation. It would be over here.
First and second, nope. Up
It's
here.
on,
Oh, it's there, okay. So
Well,
if I
that's
looked
the
straight
roof of
back,
it.
I'd see that, way back, okay. All right, so that's that elevation. And just to be clear, over here, we're looking at that arch, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's where you're gonna view that.
This is the bay
That's-
with the fireplace.
that's- We're looking at that, this is the bay, and it's really not a bay, it goes all the way down to the ground? Right? That's how it's drawn.
This is, which?
This is the
from
west
the
elevation.
Yes, it goes to the ground.
Yeah, so it's not really a bay.
It is floor area.
Yeah, it's floor area. So I'm going to come back to the floor area in a moment. We're looking at this element? That guy? That's the bay window?
It was an existing opening, but yeah, it's a bay.
So we have to look at
That's
that. We have to make a decision about that.
why. Right, that doesn't, that's just a kitchen.
I
sink.
understand,
That's the game room.
And we're looking
this
at,
is, on
we're
the
looking
back
at this. We're looking at this,
Yeah, this is the part.
okay? And then over on this side, this is the east side. We're looking at that guy. Are we looking at this? That's where that other window is on that side. No?
Yeah,
We are? Okay, so we have to make comments on that. We have to make comments on that. We have to make comments on this. Okay? All right, now, while I'm here, I saw a window being put in right here. Is that what you got on your photograph? There was something being plastered on Friday that was all plastered.
I can find them in here somewhere. No, he's talking about the east
The other
side.
side? Yeah, down here, there was a window down here. So that's that window, this is that. So there's something going on down here.
There's a window. That's the window that was approved for the stairway.
So that's this window, but it's now that window, right? It's right below this bay.
Oh, no, wait, no, that's,
This is the bay, okay? This window is that window is this
Right,
window.
correct.
This is the bay, this is that
the
window.
design changed.
Okay, so are we trying to approve that one or this one? That one. So this is not drawn for what you're approving. Okay, so that's what we're trying to approve. Okay? And this is part of that wall we're looking at, which is part on the site plan, right? We have to say something about this wall?
No,
No?
that wall's permitted. This is all permitted.
Okay, so that we don't have to pay attention to that.
Correct.
All right.
That's the same wall that goes up into the right of way.
Yeah, okay. All right. And then, okay, those are building sections, et cetera. Okay, I'm just trying to, now, just to be clear, let's go back to your floor plan. The 328 square feet that we're supposed to be paying attention to as part of this application is what? There, and where? There?
Here. So it's,
So is
this is all open right here.
No, I understand that, but it says 259 net square feet, 314 gross square feet. What's
Right,
that?
That's all open. That's
Okay, is
this
that part of
area.
this 328? No?
No, this is open, it's not.
All right,
floor.
I understand. So
This is,
closed floor place, so there's, is this, what does it say? It just says square feet, so we don't know whether it's net or gross. So part of that is this, either 109 or 87.
right,
Okay. Then 143.
right.
So that's, we're at 283, roughly.
There's 28, there's 46, and there's 92.
92? And that's it? No,
That's-
there's some more up here. What's that?
This is the same. This is existing, that's proposed.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
That's the
So
that's the basement
These are the
with
thing
the
that
carport.
get to this number right here.
Right, I think that number's wrong for some reason,
You
but
think it's
this.
bigger?
I'm gonna have to add them up.
So we're not sure what this
It's
number
on
really
the
is.
second floor. There's 63,
87?
110, and
Okay.
5. Well, that's a bay, though.
All right, so from our review standpoint, for the purposes of FAR and total square footage, from our review standpoint, in terms of things that affect the outside
That's a deck.
elevations,
That was required by the ABR to
no,
connect the two.
I understand that, but from our review of aesthetics, et cetera, we're looking at that, we're looking at that, we're looking at that, all of these guys, those guys, these guys, that guy.
Correct.
Okay, let's go back, and this one, and that one, and this thing on the bottom, that's part of the
Yeah.
top, this guy, the rest of the stuff is inside.
And this is existing,
That's
that's
existing.
showing where it was added.
Okay, let's see, fountain. Okay, I'm going to get to the railings pretty soon. So the number of modifications that are being requested, because we have to address each modification with a comment?
Correct, there's two.
There's two.
Front yard and interior. This is the interior mod for the stair,
So is that the only mod you're asking here?
for an interior, yes.
For interior, okay.
And then this line,
Is the
Everything
mod-
in front of it.
Is the other mod. So
Right.
that's bond number 2, everything in front of that line, okay. Southwork railings. Okay, and then there's something in here about, whoops, Mr. Rich. Public Works encroachment, what's the Public Works encroachment?
everything in front of this line,
Okay, so
not
is-
including this wall
Okay.
that you see from down below.
So Katie, from a review process, we're making comments about these items that fall in that,
Yes.
on that side of the line. From an aesthetic standpoint, acceptability, et cetera. That's not only for the staff hearing officer, but do those comments also go to Public Works?
It's for Public Works.
Just
It's
for
for,
public.
just
Yeah,
for Public Works?
It's not for the staff hearing officer.
Not for the staff hearing officer, okay. Okay. Okay, for the moment, that's my questions. Who has other questions? All right, let's go to comments. You saw the places I circled in red. Those are where we have to concentrate our comments at. So, Lisa, do you want to start and walk through the railings and give us your comments one way or the other? We can go to the elevations.
Yeah, there, it shows in one of the photos, the separate ones, but it also, on the front elevation here, I'm sorry, the rear elevation, they show as different types as well. So that was my question. And will they be unified throughout the project?
And I think your response was you have collected different types, and that's what you intend to use, correct?
Right, but I've collected artifacts for the last 45 years.
Okay.
And some of this has been done by Crevioto and very famous wrought iron people. And so we have a few different types because of the different artists who are doing the different types of wrought iron. So you're right, there are 3 or 4 different types of wrought iron there. The front of the building is all the same, and then it changes a little bit on the side and in the rear.
Okay. Other questions? I have one technical question. The work that I saw observed on Friday going on, is that under a permit right now?
It's flat work, and
I understand. It requires a permit. Is it under a permit?
right. No, it's not. What
It's
it-
not under, okay, that's all I need is an answer that it's not under permit. Okay, thank you. Let's go to last questions. Everybody got questions?
Yeah, we have 155% of FAR.
Yes.
And we're asking for, we're asking for 328 square feet of additions that are,
As I read this, that will get to the 155%.
that will get to the 155.
But apparently that 328 is not a correct number, just based on the square footages I just looked at on these drawings. We're going to get way past 328.
Are the bay windows that are encroaching in the right-of-way in the front, are they built, they were built under a permit that has expired, is that correct? Am I,
No, they were part of an enforcement case a long time ago that were permitted. They didn't get the Public Works encroachment permit, it was in process. So they were reviewed by the board, and it went to Public Works, but that permit was never obtained.
So basically they've been built without a permit.
And may I say, a document was supposed to be drawn up that in case you ever wanted to widen Mission Ridge Road and enter the lane, then that would be removed at that time, and that would be part of the deed to the house.
Correct, just like anything in the right-of-way.
but basically the majority of the house is sitting in the setback,
Correct, the front of the house is right at the property line.
the property line, but the
So
whole,
anything
but the whole house, but basically, I mean,
Yeah,
whole house.
anything
The
in
whole
front of
house
it is in the setback.
setback is right there.
Yeah, it's a 25-foot, so everything, the whole house is within the setback.
I mean, it was built in the Franceschi house in that era.
No, I understand.
It got re-overlaid with the new zoning law, and when that happened, the whole house ended up in the. We've seen.
We see it happen all the time.
We've seen these a lot.
The
Okay.
Franceschi house and this house were probably the only two original houses on that part of the Riviera. And unfortunately, the Franceschi house is under some issues because of the city owning it and not maintaining it. And I've been restoring this house for the last 45 years.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions?
Can I see your photos, please?
Sure.
Comments?
Here's some.
Let's go to comments.
That's like.
Anybody want to start?
I don't know where to begin.
Okay, yeah, this is going to be difficult. It's going to take us some time.
Overwhelming.
Mr. Peeney, one of the concerns I have is I understand what you're doing. I've observed this house for many years now. I understand that you're collecting artifacts, some of which are probably important because they've been done by craftsmen here in the city of importance, some of which might be questionable depending on your view of them. I understand that this is going to be an eclectic collection of Spanish architecture or interpretations thereof. The challenge we have is you've got ongoing construction constantly. That's a dilemma for the community, it's a dilemma for the neighborhood, and it doesn't help your case when you're sitting in front of this board. When I ask you and I walk over and I look at from the public right-of-way work going on without a permit,
We're doing flagstones.
I don't care. It's not with a permit. You understand that? That's very disconcerting when we're sitting here trying to help you get what you want. Okay? So it makes it very difficult to have an attitude that can be helpful to you to get you to where you want to go. So I would urge you to work with the building department to get that resolved. With regards to the additional square footage, regardless of where it is, we're pushing this house well past the 85% guideline that this board was put in place to enforce. Now, we understand that this board was implemented way after any of this work was done. It was reviewed by a previous board, etc. So it's very difficult for me to sit here and say, we can't approve this square footage, even if it's going to be more than 328. However, I am going to take a careful look at where that square footage is in terms of the aesthetics of the house. And if it's not appropriate, in my view, then I will be on the side of removing it. And I can share with you a story which I think I've shared with you before. One of our former mayors, I went to her once early in my position on this board, and I said we had a project that had a substantial amount of extra square footage built, and the applicant was there requesting for it to be kept. And she said, Fred, we had a project years ago that had a complete third story put on the building without a permit. And then they came for asked for forgiveness after the case. And it went to the city council because this board didn't exist. And she basically said we made them remove the whole third floor. So that tells me that there is precedent. If this board decides to have square footage removed, it will be removed if that's what's approved by the board, unless it's appealed to the city council and they disagree with us. So I would urge you to think about that as you review these pieces that we're going to look at as to whether or not they're appropriate as we go through this process. So to make this a little bit manageable, what I'd like to do is go through one red circle more or less at a time. And then I'll ask your comments. We'll make comments. And please make notes so as we formulate a motion, we're able to remember all of this. So I'm going to start with the elevations.
I'm going to make one comment that
Yes.
the lot is 17,000 square feet, so it exceeds the 15,000, so the FARs are just a guideline.
We understand that. We understand that. One of our challenges is to make this community livable. And I want to pull up here a Google Earth map that I brought down with me. Oops, get it to the right part of the camera. Here's your property that we're looking at here. Here's a house that we just reviewed and approved a year plus ago, maybe 2 years
That's
ago.
where you're talking the hedges are.
Okay, and this is a big home on a big property.
Yeah.
That wasn't at 85%. As I recall, and Katie would have to look up the information, it was 100% plus, but it wasn't 155%, okay? Look at the size of that site versus look at the size of this site, okay? So let's go through the front of the house. This is the APS side. Let's go through and talk about, I won't go to the sides first. Let's just take an easy one to start with. The fountain, if it's less than 25 square feet, it can remain there, as I understand the zoning law. So the only comment, and Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're allowed to comment is whether we think it's aesthetically appropriate or not aesthetic appropriate to sit within the road right-of-way.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
All right.
Well, that's not in the right of way. That's
Or,
just
no,
sitting
that's in the
there.
setback. Sorry, it's inside the setback. So again, is it appropriate, not appropriate, if it meets the 25 square foot rule? I see a verbal nod. Does that mean it's okay? Anybody else want to weigh in?
How big is it? How big is that?
If it's less than 25 square feet in surface water area, it's okay. If it's more, then they would have to reduce it to 25 square feet.
Is there?
I don't know if there's a photograph of it.
Right here.
Yeah,
Whoops,
we have
there it is.
photos somewhere.
Is that it right here?
No, that one's not it.
That's not it?
Yes, that's that one.
It's got plants
At the
in it, right?
front, yes.
So if it doesn't have water, then it doesn't count. So then it just gets down to, is it okay to be there? Okay, yeah. I don't know whether it has water. Yeah, it has water. That's what I was listening to when I was walking by. So if it meets the rule, then it meets the rule. From our standpoint, it's just an aesthetic question. Is it okay there or is it not okay there?
It's okay.
Okay. Somebody making notes? All right. All right, now let's go to this bay window, which is that the bay window?
That's the bay window with the fireplace, and the other one
No,
is...
oh, yeah, okay. So what we're looking at, let me get this out. My pencil is on the way. So this, again, is for Public Works, and the understanding is if Public Works at any one point in time wants to recapture the road right-of-way, this would have to be torn out. So what we're looking at is this fireplace element, this area here, up
Correct.
to about right there, I think it is.
This wall line is
Is it the wall line? That wall line is on the...
legal.
is
Yeah, it's
legal.
existing.
So it's this piece we're having to make an aesthetic comment on.
And then the small one down from it is this one.
Where is that? That's this guy.
Oh, no, not that
That's
one.
that's
Wait,
over
no,
here.
No,
Now,
that's...
let's just do this. Let's just deal with this right now. So it's just this element right here. So the question becomes, this is where the square footage issue...
That's not a square footage issue, as it doesn't go down to the floor. It's just a true bay inside.
So,
It's about this high
It's
up.
not a bay window then, right? It's,
well, what am I looking at here? That's a wall, right? Doesn't that wall go all the way to the ground?
It does, but on the inside, it doesn't.
Well, as far as I'm
outside.
concerned, it goes all the way to the ground. So the question is,
Built to the ground.
it's built to the ground. I'm sorry, it's built to the ground. So is that appropriate? Not appropriate?
We're looking at that, right?
Correct. That's from looking,
Looking from the
Right.
other side, looking the other way.
Yeah.
right.
Show that on the TV.
What's that? Yeah, let's get it on TV.
Same thing, in the same way.
So it's basically just standing a little closer where this photograph was taken. So it's standing right there a little closer. So you're looking at, that's the gate, that's the gate, that's the gate, that's the fireplace.
Correct.
The fireplace and the
Fireplace
chimney
is-
and the fireplace below is in the right-of-way.
Correct.
Right. Okay?
That's what squares off this corner.
Okay. And that's part of the calculation of the square footage that goes to the FAR analysis, correct?
FAR, yes, but
Yes.
square footage of the house, no. But
It goes to the square footage of
For
the house.
FAR.
It's part of the FAR study, okay? So it's FAR and aesthetics.
And what's the square footage of that?
Hold on. It's on the drawings somewhere. Here it is. 93 square feet, according to this.
Where's the fireplace?
fireplace is right here.
Oh, it's over
Squares
in it,
off.
it's in it.
Yeah,
And then this one.
okay. So it's
You should
93
probably
square
come up
feet.
and probably walk the site, and I can explain everything to you. And you can get a better understanding of what you're looking at,
Well,
what you're seeing, how it relates.
And we may do that, but let's get through this exercise first, because ultimately we're going to have to go back and give you specific comments for each one of these as
Correct.
it travels to the Public Works guys. Okay? So do we get any kind of consensus? Okay, not okay?
I'd say if you can free up square footage, free it up.
What do you mean, free it up?
Take it out.
Well, that's one place you could take it out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Right? So there's some...
Let's get the
some-
FAR down.
Okay, so some discussion about removing it. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's go to this little bay window, which is in another photograph somewhere, which is appears to be a true bay window. It's up off the ground.
okay.
So it's there, and its collective square footage is 20 square feet.
But that's in the easement also, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Any comments? No? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to ask. I know we don't have to deal with this, but why were these allowed to be?
Because, let's not get into it. It's a situation that I brought up before this board. We have a building department that doesn't have all the tools they need in their toolkit to stay on top of this. They probably don't have enough people to go out and monitor all these things, and they just happen because we have people out here building without permits. We have people out here changing things without anybody's review, and then we have a whole bunch of folks that get caught, and then they have to come back and ask for forgiveness after the case. And so our job is to determine whether or not we're going to, at least from our purview, agree or disagree with that approach. Okay? That's why. There's a lot of other details.
Keep
but
going
that's
through
why.
it. You're doing
Keep
a
going.
good job.
I would just also keep in mind the FAR is supposed to be, I understand the numbers to get you to a target, but it's really a tool of the mass, bulk, and scale. So regardless of the number, if you think it looks appropriate, then I don't know that shaving off a couple square feet would really.
Yeah, we've looked at a lot of, before, with really high
Right. So
FARs.
This is
yeah,
going to
and
be
we've
all in
approved
bits and
them.
pieces. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm trying to walk you this through, because at the end of the day, you may say, okay, well, it looks fine or whatever. Okay. Let's go. So that's those two elements. We did those. Let's go around to.
Can I also explain one other thing?
Yes.
If a bay window doesn't extend to the ground, or if it has the step in it at above 32 inches, then it's not floor area. It's FAR like a carport is. If you have a carport, it's not floor area because it's not enclosed, so it's not creating floor area, therefore.
But we're looking
it
at
is
it from
floor
the
area
outside. If
ratio, right.
If
It's a
it was
ratio.
cut in on the outside, then we would say, it's a bay window. But we're looking at it
Right.
all the way to the floor.
Right, it's not, but yeah. The one on the driveway side is.
Okay. Let's walk now to the, let's go to the west side, because we can go to this gate. That's the gate we just looked at a moment ago. Okay. So we have to make a determination of whether this gate here,
Oh,
on the
right.
street level, that's this gate
That's
here.
the,
and this little
correct.
stone arch is acceptable.
I think it's kind of a nice feature myself.
All right, okay.
That gate was originally.
That runs perpendicular to the street. That gate is
Yes,
perpendicular to the street.
And it's in the road right
Right
of way.
away.
Okay?
And this is it from
And-
the back
And
side.
Public Works will want to know whether we agree that it's okay or it's not okay. Okay? All right, then let's go to, we've already talked about that element. Let's go to this element on the west elevation, and do we have a photograph of that?
I think that photo's kind of disappeared. There's like a partial.
Okay,
That's
so
not
we're
a very
looking
good
at,
one. I've got better ones over there.
Yep.
Usurp.
That's the other side of it.
Oh, yeah, that's the other
it's
side.
this one right here. This is the thing that's got stuck on it, or the brown coat, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and it had, that window is that window,
Right, there's three of them.
and this window is not quite that window. This shows a double hung, that appears to be a fix. So what is it, that one?
I'd have to look at it from a
Okay,
different
so
angle.
this may be a fixed window rather than a double hung. And I'm assuming that might happen on the other side, okay. So the question is, this now is subject to the modification because it's
Right, it's
in
in
the
the
setback.
front
It's inside.
It's in the front yard setback.
Front. Because it's 25 feet.
It's in the 25-foot front yard setback.
Okay, okay.
All right, so that's this guy.
Can I explain something that, you notice none of the work is being done on the structural part? I was instructed to clean up the site, and what we're doing, which you saw, was cleaning up the site and putting the flagstone on the ground.
Okay.
But we're not doing any structural work.
All right.
That's all been stopped.
Okay. So is this acceptable or not? One of the questions I have now that I see this is off the, let's go to the floor plan.
This is on the west, this is the west this is on the west elevation. Mark, is that on the west
It's on the
elevation?
west driveway side, correct.
So what that is the window I'm looking at, the three windows, this one, and this one, we're looking at an extension of the laundry room, correct? On the first, on the, what is this, the
That's kind
main
of the
floor?
top of it.
Yeah, the main
Right,
floor.
Correct, I'll show
Okay,
you.
so what's below that? What's down on the, so that's more than a floor high. Yeah, what's down in
Oh,
here? What's,
Well,
what's-
there's
what-
nothing out there.
well, but what,
It
what is-
extends beyond the wall of that.
no, I
wall.
understand that, but what shows on the first level? Where am I?
Back
Back.
2 pages.
So on the first level, this,
This is what was existing, so that's the toilet. and then
Right,
the
but on the
bathroom.
first level is, we would see something here, because that's what I see in the photograph, right? This one.
That
right?
was the existing plan,
No, I understand that, but where's the plan that shows this on the plan?
the next sheet.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
And here's the three
So,
windows.
well,
And they're called out a 20 by 26.
okay, but that's that
Okay.
window here. Those are that window, this window. So the floor line is where? Right here?
Right about there, that's correct.
Okay, so that's the floor line. That's what so this is a void under here.
That's correct.
Okay, and that would show up on this plan.
That's the existing, and that's the proposed first
Okay, so
floor.
you don't have a basement plan. That's what I
Well,
was.
there is a basement plan, but I didn't show it because it's not like the floor area of that plan.
Should be
This is
shown on
It's
that.
got to be, yeah, it should be shown.
Built.
So it should be shown here as a something because it's part of the, there's something down there. It's
Looks
either
like
a
it's
void or
shown.
whatever.
It's a void.
Yeah.
If it's void, and it just should say a void.
Okay.
Okay,
well,
in other words, you.
it's right here.
Right, but you should show it as a void so that we understand how it got built. Okay? So my comment is, I would have much rather seen this be as a true bay extension and not taken all the way down to the ground.
It's not a bay window.
But it's not a bay window. No, I understand that, but I'm saying I would have much more preferred, had this come to us originally, before they built any of this stuff and asked us to approve a drawing adding this, showing this addition, I would have much rather seen it as a bay element rather than going all the way to the ground. But be that as may, that's how it's been
Yeah,
built.
and also the windows, I mean, like, why aren't they matching? It looks like they should match along that little section at least.
Well,
See that from the street. See this window from the street.
Yeah, and we're,
This from the
on the
west.
drawings, it's showing is a double hung that
Yeah,
matches.
those are incorrect. That's what
And
Brian
it
just
doesn't
left.
match what got put in.
Okay.
So, you know,
Floor plans are
if we collectively, majority wanted to see what's on the drawing versus what got built, we can ask for that. Okay? I'm not saying we do that, I'm just saying that's an option. Okay, all right, let's go to then the next element, which is this little bay window here, which is right there. Okay. Comments?
Do we have a picture of that?
Okay,
There's a good picture of it
that's this
from
guy.
a different angle.
All right, and we have to do this one too, right?
That one is not in the front setback, but it does need review.
Because
It's not a mod.
it's not a mod, but it wasn't permitted?
Correct. It was a window, but it wasn't a bay.
Okay, so we do have to look at it. So it's this, it's that guy.
This guy just beyond the 25.
Okay, so this drawing doesn't reflect what's there, right?
Correct, I guess I
Yeah,
somehow,
so
maybe
this-
I got it.
Yeah, so this
This
is,
is what Brian drew.
yeah, so there's a window here and a window here, and this just drops down a little further. Okay, so it looks like that. Comments?
Wait, is this still the west side that we're
Yes.
looking at?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're
Just
marching.
trying-
So look at this photograph. Here's what
Uh-huh,
we talked
right,
about first on the
yes,
west side.
okay.
We just touched that little bay window here.
Okay.
And now we're at this bay window, which is on the drawing right here, but it doesn't quite match, the drawing doesn't match what's in. Okay? So, comments? My comment would have been, I would have liked to seen the same language. You know, up here, it's interesting, both of these wrought iron Juliet balconies, as we like to call them, are of the same style and description.
Correct, and this one needs a mod and this one doesn't.
Okay, and so, you know, understanding that this is going to be an eclectic collection of different architectural elements all over the house, if you accept that, then I kind of accept this. But these are so far apart that it would have been nice. I understand how these windows work and those windows work, but it would have been nice. They would have had the opportunity to curve these elements
Well, we can change that.
and not make this so
Correct.
stark.
We could change the window
Okay,
style.
I
to
understand,
match this.
and nobody else may agree with me, so don't
Yeah.
jump to any conclusions. I'm just pointing out that
I agree with you.
that could be something that we could ask for a change, even if we say we accept these two elements, okay? So you see what's going, as we walk around the house, there may be some things where we say, yeah, okay, we could live with it, but we'd like you to change something.
Just so it would be more aesthetically pleasing to have that continuity of those windows.
Then,
What is this element?
that's a fan of some sort.
It's a fan?
And you have another unit down
All
here.
right.
These are less than a foot and a half, do they they don't require these little overhang things? Arbor review? Eyebrows, they don't require arbor review?
I don't know where, yeah, probably.
You should, well, no, there is a rule, there's a certain distance you can be, and then the staff hearing officer doesn't have purview.
Oh,
So
for
you-
2 feet, yeah, it's a
Yeah,
2
so-
foot extension.
So you need to make sure that's clear, what's going on here. But I would suggest that if we consider changing the bottom of these, you change those so it kind of goes together a little bit. Okay, let's go, let's see, where were we? Oh, we're here. Okay, then let's go around, I guess we're going to go around to the south elevation.
We get to stop right there because that's where the building setback stops.
Right.
Correct.
Correct. You're right. Okay, and then this deck element has been approved, or are we looking at part of this deck? You looking from there out this way?
You would have to go to the floor plans to understand what was permitted.
Let's go back to where, here? No,
That's the basement.
here.
Right. So this little addition here,
Is, you want to put the photograph here? So is that the addition?
correct, it's inside this area here.
It's here. So that's part of it, this is part of it.
Right.
Okay, so here we're trying
It's
to.
upside down, let me see. Yeah, yeah, it's that area.
So what's going on is you walk out this door, you
You
walk
connect to
across,
this deck, which
you
is
connect
what
to that.
the
And I think
ABR
you
wanted.
mentioned the ABR said, no, do that.
Correct.
Okay.
They wanted them.
And that's the resolution of how you're doing it. And so we need to determine, yeah, that's okay or that's not okay, correct?
Correct.
All right. So it's just the deck and the railing and the finish.
Correct.
Tell me about, okay, let's go back to here. So here is the other piece that's been added, and that we do have purview over whether it should be there, should not be there, and if it is there, is this the appropriate look? There's, let's see, let's see if we can get it correct. There's a window, and a window. So this plan shows two windows. Do you know what I'm looking at?
It's just an oblique angle, it's kind of hard to see.
No, I understand that, but right here, am I looking at, what am I looking at? This piece. Where's that door? That's this right here? Is that what I'm looking at?
There's the door right.
No, let's see.
Is that door where this is shown as a window?
Oh, no, it's wrong.
Okay, so that's that door, whichever way it opens. Okay, so there's a door, there's a window, and then if I go around the corner, there's actually a larger window here, and then a little window, looks like a stained glass window, and then another little window, correct?
Yeah, they're beveled.
Okay, so window, 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 door, window. Window, 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 door, window, okay? And around the other way, where do we have the other side? I think it's back on your, oh, here it is, okay. So on the other side, there is two windows. Window here, window there, window there, window there. Okay, so this element is to our discretion, yes, no, and if it's a yes, then is the configuration of windows, architectural elements acceptable as shown in the photographs, not necessarily as it's drawn because it doesn't match what's there. And I would say that's a really awkward addition. very awkward addition, given the language and particularly because of this element right here, which I in plan, I understand what they did. They had a piece come out, a piece like that, and if you look at the plan, as I recall, it comes back, and that kind of makes some sense. And this kind of makes some sense, and then they put this in. And I think that really needs some complete restudying. I'm not sure that it's necessary that it's 63 square feet. It could be 40 square feet. I'm not opposed to not having the square footage, but I am opposed to this configuration. It's very awkward. It destroys this nice composition that's here, that's already in play. And so to put this funny little bump out just kind of destroys the nice rhythm of the windows up here, this little overhang, this symmetrical balcony deck up here, the way this element comes into this element, that all kind of works, but this is really doesn't help the situation. I think that really needs restudy.
What if you're looking at it from the front instead of at that angle? Because that's
In
looking
any
into the hole there.
in any way, yeah. It's very awkward.
It's not a, doesn't fit the rest of the back end of the house.
I don't get paid to design your stuff, but, I think if you wanted to come up with something that was in the rhythm of the other things you're doing, that might work better. So I think it needs restudy.
You circled the bay window, or the other bay window?
We already looked at that. We already commented on that. I'm walking my way around the building. Okay.
And which side of the building is
This is on the south side.
This is the south.
Yeah, and what we're looking at is that window is this window right here. This window is that window right here. This little piece of deck is this piece here as it goes over to that corner. That corner is this corner. And there's a little window right here, okay? So that corner is this corner. That door is this door,
Correct, which
Okay.
is inside.
right? So, and it's supported
By
on
the columns
by the
down
column
here.
on the bottom floor. We'll get to the bottom floor in a second. I'm just going to go through the, and then we are looking at this little element here, which is this, okay? Right? And then it goes over and picks up this arched balcony with these are wood, correct?
That's correct, they're wood.
And you got those from somewhere?
Yes, from Montecito, a house they're tearing down.
Okay, so there's a wood, a salvaged arcade.
They're all carved.
That are carved in wood, et cetera. So that's why I'm saying this is really awkward, given the effort to do this. And I don't have a problem with this. I think it looks nice. I think that when it gets done, it'll look great, and this will look great. But as we walk,
Stone all to bottom.
right, and that all looks good, and then we get to this funny thing at the corner. So that's why I'm saying this needs study. If I look at the whole composition. Okay. All right, then let's go to.
That's what you're
Let's-
talking about right there, that's it.
Yeah. So now, do we have to make a comment on this elevation?
Yes, this is what's underneath.
Okay,
That's
let's-
what's holding that up.
Okay,
and
let's
that's
go.
the other
Let's go
part
to
of the
the.
basement.
Let's go to the back to the elevation of the floor.
How about the deck? Is the deck something that was?
The deck was permitted.
That's permitted in there. We don't have to make a comment.
Except the stairway down is what needs a mod.
We'll come back to that in a minute. I want to catch these other things first. Where is it? Here. Okay. So underneath that deck, there is this going on. Is that just sitting there?
That's sitting there, yes.
Okay, so the real window is what we're
Behind
looking
it.
at. Okay. So that's that window, that's that window, this is the stone. This is that deck, and it's obviously, when this picture was taken, it shows the light coming from above, but I thought you said that whole deck was covered with something. at
No,
this
no,
point.
it's 2x6.
No,
redwood.
it's 2x6s.
So
There's
are
a new
are
steel
you,
beam.
okay, but are you intended to cover the top of that deck?
No.
So it's going to be exposed, okay.
Yeah,
So-
water will go right down.
Okay, now, so here's my question. I've been through this exercise before. I had to bring a house in front of this board to see if we could have them keep two huge decks that ultimately one had to be taken down because this board disagreed. But in doing that project, this, I assume, is in the high fire area?
Correct, but it's existing, so if we were to touch it and replace and redo stuff, then we would be subject to that, but
To
right
bringing
now,
this up to fire?
to bringing it up to code, to skirt it, to
Okay.
tough
Yeah,
legs it, or
you couldn't do
Trex it, or whatever.
You couldn't show it here, okay.
Correct.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Yes, it
Because
is
it'll
high
look
fire.
different if you have to do the fire thing. Okay, so let's see, let's walk around here. Okay, so now, that's these guys. This is an oblique angle if you're
Right.
looking at this thing straight on. Then we have that door versus that door. Which one do you want? That door?
Yeah, I didn't change all his elevations.
Okay, so that door is this door. And that's the inset, that's that window.
And then it goes into
Where do we go?
that little window's there.
So that
That
little,
little guy's, but way back there.
that's that guy, and then we've seen the rest of
then
this.
we've
Okay.
seen
So
this.
does anybody have any issues with this little underneath piece here? No? Okay. And we've discussed this piece. Anybody have any big issues there? Okay. Let's go to that window. Where is that window on your photographs?
It's beyond that.
No, I got three arches, we don't have the window there. Oh, way over, okay.
Somewhere.
Too many photos. There's one that's down.
Okay.
That one is, I don't know what happened, because I
No,
already
that's
changed
this,
all
no,
these.
that's this window.
Oh, yeah, that's behind this arch.
Yeah, and these
Yeah.
are double
And then
hung.
that guy's there, that one's right here.
Oh, okay, that's what I was looking for. Okay, so that's that guy. Right, these are double hung. That's this window here.
Correct.
That's a double hung. And then we have this round element,
Correct. That is.
which
Coming
is,
from the side, from this side, you see it right here, you know,
Okay, and
from,
so-
from the east.
right, so this metal element is up here. And what I'm looking at is, what you really see is you see the tile. This is not quite right, but you see tile in front, because it's
Right,
set
right.
inside,
It's on
correct?
a-
And then this is this round element coming down, and this drawing shows a little lintel of stone up here. You're not going to do that?
Yes, well, that's going to be stone.
Everything will have stone across.
So is it going to
Stone all
just have
across.
stone lintel or stone
It's
below?
all the way down.
Stone
Okay, so
everywhere.
there's going to be stone in here too.
Yes.
Okay, up to a lintel, which isn't part of this yet, okay. So this
Correct.
is what you want to prove, not that.
Right, and same with all the way
I
down.
haven't touched anything that needed permit.
No, I understand, but it's just,
Yeah,
Wait,
I can explain that.
okay, well, I understand that, but for approved drawings, if you want stone here, then it needs to show on the drawings.
Correct.
Okay, so
We're-
we're trying to get you to what you
We're
want.
trying to give you the big picture right
Okay,
now.
I'm trying to give you what you want. I'm just trying to, because when you come back, hopefully you'll have cleared all these up, and then we don't have to spend an hour going through them all. Okay. All right, then let's go to,
Did we discuss that?
let's come back to that. Let's go finish around the other side of the house, and then we'll come back to the bridge, or to the staircase. Let's see, we're over here, okay. Okay, we're on the east side. We've already really discussed this balcony and so forth here, so that's part of the element we looked at on the south side. So over here, do we have to approve this, correct? No?
Well, whatever. It's, the proposed wood window, so that's proposed.
Existing bay window,
That's existing, so
we don't
no.
have to touch that.
Don't have to touch the bay, that's existing.
Let's get rid of that note. Okay, so we don't have to say anything about that. Do we have to say anything about these guys?
As-built stained glass, that one is,
Yes, no?
yes.
Okay, so one of the problems is this drawing doesn't depict what's there. This looks like this surface is proud of that surface. Is that what you want, or is this what you
Yeah,
want?
it's just, those lines would go away, it's just the way.
So
we
it's just,
drew it.
okay,
Yeah,
so you want what's drawn right there?
correct.
Okay.
What's existing is what you see in the
Okay,
pictures.
anybody have comments about that window arrangement? Okay, and then there's a window down here that's actually like that versus what's on the drawing.
Correct.
Okay, so this drawing needs to get changed if that's the window you
Will
want.
probably get changed.
And
because-
then you've got indicated by this sketch, you're going to have stone coming back to somewhere back here?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Back probably there, right? Okay, so that's all going to get stone. Okay, then we come back, we don't have to comment on any of this. And we don't have to comment on any of that, so we're done with that, okay? So now let's go back to the site plan. And the only thing on the staircase that we have to comment is this little bump right here?
Correct, and I'm not seeing a picture of mine that I have of that area.
You did have a picture of
There's
this.
one looking down the side of the property. That kind of
I think there was one that showed that staircase.
Right there.
It is, yeah, is this one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's not a great
it's out
view.
around the corner. It's
Right.
that little corner right there.
Yeah, it's just
So-
a clip of the concrete structure below.
So Katie, this is the staff hearing officer issue. The staff hearing issue officer is going to say, are we in agreement with, where's the scale?
I don't have one.
This is 4th inch. So are we in agreement with allowing a foot, less than 1.5 feet of stairs sticking into the easement, correct? Okay. So you see
The
what's going on
aesthetic
there?
appropriateness.
Is that appropriate? Is it appropriate to allow this little piece of staircase to go into the setback? Okay. We're not making a comment on the rest of the stair. It's been permitted and remains. It's just the little piece that's hanging over, okay? All right. Have we walked all the way around the building at this? Oh, we have the upper deck. So these have to be permitted, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that was the thing I was commenting on earlier that I thought looked pretty good. That was this thing. That's these little guys right here. okay?
Exactly, and there's one over there.
And there's one here, one here. So that's this one and this one. This is, I thought you said we just had to do one balcony.
Those are the Juliets.
Just one or
The
two?
wrought iron. Well, this one's in the front setback, and that one is unpermitted, so it needs to.
So both of those
Correct.
little balconies will need a comment on.
Correct.
Okay.
And there's one of them.
Those are on the west side. Okay.
Yeah, that's
So
the
it's
one.
the second story Juliet balconies, wrought iron balconies, okay?
Which are these right here, these two.
The third story.
It's the
That's the
upper
top
floor.
story.
It's the top,
it's just-
top story.
There's a
What's that?
lower, these are them right there.
Yes, yes. All right. So Katie, I hope you've been keeping track. I know they've been making notes. Have we got through everything that we're supposed to look at?
How about
Oh, the trellis.
trellis?
Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Whoops, sorry.
Trellis is all. That's not part
But
of the
that's part of
lots.
our review at some point, correct?
Yeah, maybe we can review that next time.
Okay, so let's just walk through. the
After you put
trellis.
it on the drawing.
No, it's on there, but
Well,
it's,
he's got one trellis here. There's another set of
that
trellises
one
that's-
still has to come. I
that
need the
has to come on the
surveyor.
drawing. There's something going on over here that has to go on the drawing. Do we have to make any comments about,
Yeah, eventually you will, but there's nothing that's requiring a modification or anything, so if we
just
could.
part of our approval of non-permitted stuff, so that's the zoning violation part of it. Okay. So you're going to come back with a landscape plan
And
a
full
finished- and a finished
elevations and
hard
sections
surface.
and everything.
and some
Once
tier
I
3.
have the survey, then I can shoot the walls
All
out.
right, so part of our future review will be a landscape plan, hardscape plan, irrigation, an exterior lighting plan of the landscaped area, and at some point, we want to look at lighting fixtures that will be attached in the main building, and any lighting fixtures attached to the trellis or other wall elements within the garden. And we're required to review the Tier 3 SHWIMP requirements for retaining water on the site. That'll all be coming to us in the future because it's not here today. Okay? So the other thing that we'll want to review is all the color pieces. So if you're going to paint the whole house one color, then you can't say match existing. Under the rules, we have to see a chip or
Okay.
whatever, if it's Sherman-Williams or whoever it is, that has to be on the color board. If you're going to retain the clay tile, that needs to be in the details, and then also a photograph or whatever needs to be on the color board. Color of the wrought iron, any stained wood, all of that needs to be put together on a color board.
I brought one of the tiles in.
Okay, so that's a true tile.
Well, this is done by, you can see the handprint. This was handmade by the Indians, and they put them on their knee and make these things.
Right, that's
And,
how they did it.
yeah, and I collected enough to do the whole roof.
Okay.
They don't all have handprints, though, but just a few do, but I want to bring one in to show you guys.
Okay, so that just needs to be in your submission. We don't need the tile, but we need a photograph or whatever. Okay. And I think the other thing that, Katie, correct me, I'm assuming that Public Works will want to see any exterior lighting that's in the road right-of-way, correct?
Any elements that are in the public right-of-way, yes.
Okay, so if you have a light post or a whatever, that needs to be on the drawings, and a photograph preferably, or something, so we can say, yes, we looked at it.
Okay.
Because that will go into our detailed comments that go back to Public Works. Because they're going to want to say, did they look at the light fixture and is it okay? Now, they may determine that it's not okay, but that's their criteria, not ours.
Correct.
And just as the staff hearing officer may say, the single-family design board was favorable about certain elements, and the staff hearing officer may say, I'm sorry, I don't agree, and do whatever they do, okay? All right. I'm sensing that the best way that we may want to proceed, and I'm suggest this, and then somebody can decide whether or not they want to make a motion. I think that there's so much detail here that we've looked at and made comments on. I would rather have it come back to us with corrections and all the notes that we've talked about before we take an action in any way that allows them to proceed to the staff hearing officer. One, because I think then it'll be clear for us, it'll be clear for them, and it will be clear for the staff hearing officer and the Public Works Department, so that we've got it down to what things we agree about, what things we don't agree about, et cetera. So I would encourage someone to make a motion to have it returned to the full board, and then a series of comments and notes that you've been making.
What about a site visit? Have we?
If you feel we need to do a site visit, that's certainly in order.
Well, because you can't really see a lot of it from the road.
Okay. So if you want to do a site visit, then we can do it one of two ways. Typically, we can do it our own, but then that requires the owner allowing us individually go on the site at different times or whatever. I would suggest the better way to do it, if majority of us want to go see the site, that it be scheduled as part of the public meeting process, and Katie can work with the applicant to put that into play. So I would encourage maybe two motions. One motion for the applicant of how they're to proceed next, and a second motion that would indicate a request for a site visit.
Well, you can include that.
Can we do it in the
just
same
all
motion?
in one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Somebody
Like
want to
when
try
they
Oh,
are,
a
you
motion?
going to do it?
You can chime in, we'll do it together. The board would like to make a motion to continue this project back to the full board with the following comments. That we have reviewed all sides of the building and the different modifications and encroachments. And on the APS side, we find the fountain to be acceptable. The first bay window with the fireplace, the 93 square foot, is that a encroachment? What are we calling it?
Yes, that's on the
Encroachment.
public right-of-way encroachment.
Public right-of-way encroachment, questionable. And the second front bay window is acceptable along APS because it's a true bay. We agreed the gate perpendicular to APS is acceptable. The stone, the original stone archway, and that the bay window that goes to the ground, we'd like you to show the void underneath it on the plans. And as to the acceptability, we are waiting to make that determination. So we have more information, either a site visit. I don't know what the rest of that is, sorry. We'd like you to show a change to a double hung window on that bay that shows on the plan, but is a different single hung configuration in reality. We'd like you to change the second and third bay window on the west side to be similar. Are those the ones that have the dissimilar arch underneath it?
Yes, correct.
Okay, those. And that the third story wrought iron Juliet balconies are acceptable. That on the south side, moving around to the south side, the multi-windowed nook, the odd-shaped nook, we feel that is very awkward and takes away from the continuity of the other features on that building side, and would consider having you remove that or further study that. That the first floor elevations on that south side, the windows are acceptable. And on that south side, we'd like you to show the stone wrapping that you plan to do underneath the round tower element and all around that side, and to detail that material and show it on the plans. Moving along to the east side, we find the 18 inches of steps encroaching into the setback will allow that 18 inches to remain, I think. And that for the next review, we'll be looking for you to bring in details about the trellis, Tier 3 stormwater management, a landscape plan, a hardscape plan, an irrigation plan, a lighting plan, color board, materials, period.
I would suggest to the maker of the motion that it's trellises, because there's more than one trellis.
Trellises.
Okay.
And, and that what? Site visit.
And that you'd like to arrange a site visit as scheduled for a public hearing.
Yes, add that language, please.
That's your motion. Okay.
That is my motion.
Okay.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second that.
Okay, thank you. All right, there is a first and second to the motion. Is there further conversation, comments to the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay, you can work with Katie and the staff to get a site visit, and that, generally, they will try to schedule that the same day that we will see you for your next visit.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay, is there any further business before the board?
Okay.
Seeing no further business, the chair will adjourn the Monday, September 17th, 2018 board.
We lost 1666.